Hi everyone, my name's Rob Nassif. I'm the owner of the Hen House Rehearsal Studios, manager of the Faim, manager of Red Hook, and today's Zoom call is a real special one for me. Our guest is the keyboard slaying, bass playing overlord of the Faim, Mr. Stevie Beerkens. Stevie B, how are you, buddy?
Hello, I'm very good after spending a long day at the Hen House.
Ah, nice little plug there, buddy. Very good.
Yeah, I know, plugging away, sitting here with my tea, and yeah, going well.
Oh, that's great, Stevie. Look, it's a special one for me because obviously, our journey, I guess, started at the Hen House, and it's a sort of, I guess, an interesting sort of launch off point for both of us, and for this Zoom call. The way I got to know you and discovered your band was down at the Hen House Studios. I was looking at our booking system, and I was able to go back in time and work out that it was Friday, June 13th, so Friday the 13th, June 2015 is
You're
when
a
you
lucky
guys
day.
are, yeah, great. It has ended up being a very lucky day. You guys were down there rehearsing. I was working, doing my shift on a Friday night, and I was going around the rooms collecting the cash, and I got to your room, room 17, and I was waiting at the door. You were halfway through a song, and I was listening at the door, and I thought, wow, this is really cool. This is really good stuff. And I thought, geez, this youngster's got a great voice on him. You guys finished the song. I knocked on the door. I popped my head in. I said, "G'day, guys. How you doing?" And you were all very excited to see me. I'd never met you guys before. And I said, "Geez, fellas, this is good stuff. I'm really enjoying this. Do you mind if I come in and have a listen to a song?" And so I came in the room. You guys are all could tell there was like a nice nervous energy in there. You launched into a song, and you guys rocked out, man. I mean, you're in the rehearsal studio, but you were rocking out. And the one thing I distinctly remember, Steve, is you did a pop
Oh,
punk
no.
jump, and you got about, I don't know, 2 inches of height on the pop punk jump. You came back down. You almost fell over, and I thought, "Geez, these guys are really keen." And then you finished the song, and then you guys bombarded me with a whole bunch of questions about, the music industry and how you get signed and this and that. And I just liked you guys as people straight away. I just liked your vibe. How do you remember that day, Stevie?
I remember rehearsing at the Hen House because we were recording an EP with Chris Hansen from Avastira,
Yep.
and he was up in room. I can't remember. I think it was in room one. He would
Yeah,
have would have been.
upstairs,
Yeah.
room 9 or 10. Yeah.
So he was upstairs, and so that's what we knew was the recording. That was the recording studio of Perth. Was that the Hen House? Yeah, room 9 or 10,
Yeah.
and they were like, hey, we might as well, like, we're here for recording. Let's like jam some of these songs. And then we knew you were coming. We knew that you were around and about, so we were like putting on our best, even though when like you went inside the room, but we were still putting in our best just in case. And it turns out you were listening outside, so hopefully that's
Yes.
something. But I remember coming. It was Rob from Gyroscope was coming into the room, so this was a bit special for us, and trying not to be too nervous and gaddy when you get into the room. But I remember we were playing Set Free from the OG Small Town Heroes EP,
Yes.
and the intro is the drum, the dun 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 dun, and then I was like, wow, you know what's gonna really sell Rob on our music? Punk jump.
Yes. Clearly, you hadn't practiced that punk jump a lot because you
Look,
almost killed yourself.
yeah, well, let's safe to say I haven't tried too many punk jumps since then. Actually, the very first show we ever did, like prior to the actual first show, was at my 18th or 19th birthday. I think that was actually before that. I tried a punk jump then.
Yes.
And I think I got less air than before. Like I was actually kind of stoked. I almost stacked it because that was the most air I've ever got when I did it in front of you. So
Oh, that's fantastic,
that
mate.
goes to say about my pop punk live appearance doesn't really work too well. So that's why I'm like, oh, maybe a keyboard would be good. Keeps my stature like a little,
Yeah, yeah.
leveled.
Well, it was a great moment, Steve, because you guys firstly, were lovely. I enjoyed chatting with you guys, and you were asking me so many questions. But it was a Friday night, and I had dinner booked in with my girlfriend, so I had to sort of cut you guys short, even though we were getting on really well. And I said, "Look, here's my number. You guys obviously have a lot of questions you want to ask about the music industry. If you want to have a chat, send me a message, and we'll go get a coffee." And then I think it was literally the next day, one of you guys sent me a message, and you're like, "Hey, Rob, it was great to meet you. We'd love to ask you all these questions. Can we get a coffee?" And we did. We went and had a coffee later that week, and that's really how the friendship started. And for me, I was at a point in my life where I'd for a long time wanted to manage a band, but wasn't really at the point where I wanted to take the plunge because I was looking to build a rehearsal studio in New York at the time. So for me, it was just coming from a place of really wanting to help you guys out, and it was nice getting to know you. I would see you guys down at the studio across the course of 2015, and of course, not long after we first met, I was again looking at the dates. It was end of August. I think it was August 26th. You guys invited me to your first official show, which was at Leaderville headquarters. I think it was like June 26th, 2015. And I came down to the show. It was a storming night. I was out with some friends and I thought, geez, do I really want to I can't be, I was at their house. We were having like some drinks at their house. I was like, I don't know if I can be bothered trekking all the way out to Leaderville to go see this band I barely know. It's raining. But I thought, you know what, there's something about these guys. So I went to the show and it was packed. And I thought, this is mad that a band playing their first show can essentially sell out HQ. I thought, this is so interesting. I'd been looking at your socials. At that point, you already had like 20,000 followers on Instagram. You guys came out to play the show. The crowd went wild. Everyone went nuts. You're about to kick into the song, and then an amp wasn't working. And you then spent the next 15 minutes on stage looking very uncomfortable, trying to make jokes with the crowd. And the show wasn't that great, to be honest with you.
Well, you're giving us a lot of credit saying it was just an amp. Absolutely nothing worked.
Which is the nature of a first show. But you guys got it going and you started playing. And when you were playing, I took a photo of that when I was there, and I actually put it up on the Hen House page yesterday. But Steve, take me back to that time for the band. What were your sort of goals? What were you hoping in 2015 to achieve as a band?
Well, back then we were. A funny thing that actually I just thought of now, where we're talking about HQ, is that at that time so I think it was after the first EP, State Champs played at HQ. So at that time, we were literally hoping that State Champs would listen to our EP, because we went up and gave it to them. We're like, hey, could you please listen to our EP? That would just mean the world to us. So that was on the forefront of our minds. That was one of the things, which was super interesting now that we know the guys, and I've tracked keys on one of their songs, which is super cool. But I don't tell them that. We don't. Yes. They do not remember us. They don't put the two and two together.
Yes.
Don't tell them that we were fangirling back
great.
in the day, trying to shove our EP onto them. But at that time was sort of just to play a live show around Perth was the aim, was the goal. I remember we sent emails to amps at the start. We're like, hey, we want to play our first ever show, and then they're like, oh, you sort of have to be more have played more shows before and stuff like that. We're like, wow, it's actually hard to even just book a show. This is crazy. We can't even figure this out. We managed to organize the one at HQ, and that then in turn kick-started at least playing shows around Perth. And then that was just such a big thing in itself. And definitely I remember having that coffee. We went somewhere that was outdoors, and it was really nice.
It was up at the Mez in Mount Hawthorn.
Yes, Mount Hawthorn. That was it. I remember that, and just talking about the prospect of in the future touring. It seemed so unimaginable back then. It's such a crazy thing that we always wanted to do. The end game was to at least tour, but had absolutely no clue how to get there, the means of which you would book a tour, because it was so daunting, or just anything, just getting to that level. And I think the whole process from then was putting the puzzle pieces and the steps together, which each little step then got to that next level. But it was basically making everything up as we go along, just to try and figure out what those steps were.
Yeah, totally. I think bringing this back to Hen House bands, and when I think about that time for me getting to know you guys, I think what I fell in love with first was the personalities within the band and your work ethic and your drive, because it really reminded me, you guys were about 18 at the time, and it reminded me when I was 18, I had that same drive and hunger and thirst for knowledge around, how did Jebediah do it? How did this band, how did bands that had come before us do it? And so when we went and had that coffee, so much around your questioning was around how Gyroscope did it. And I instantly related to you guys because you were so hungry for it. And I think that that's something bands and artists that are coming up, and really whatever the field you're in, should remember is that a burning passion for what you do is ground zero if you hope to succeed in that industry. And so the first thing I really loved was just you guys as people. And then, over time, the music kept getting better and better because as we started to develop that relationship, I said to you guys, look, if you want to send through demos, I'll give you feedback and advice on your demos. And you started doing that. So you launched the first EP, I'd come to the show, we were getting to know each other. I remember you guys came to the Hen House birthday, Christmas party at the end of 2015, and we hung out there. And then you sent me a couple more demos at the start of 2016. And it was plain to see that you guys are improving quickly, which again, as a manager, and I get hit up a little bit to manage bands, that's what you want to see, like a band that's a self-starting band that's willing to do the hard work. What was a day in your life as a musician like back in 2015, Steve? Were you guys rehearsing a lot? Were you focusing on writing? I know you were dealing a lot on social media. You had 20,000 followers. How did all of that come about?
Yeah, I think back then, definitely, it was a lot. It's such a different thing because we spent a lot of time on doing covers for like Facebook and Instagram, which was really how like we initially built like that main following in the first place was by doing covers, because it was like, well, back then we actually had nothing released to do for ourselves. So it was like, okay, so we're going to spend this time on doing covers, and we just did that a lot. Like, we probably did about 2 covers a week, and then a lot
what songs did you select? What songs did you select?
So what we tried to do was like definitely a lot around. So what we actually did, so this is before comments got like spammed and everything on Instagram, but what we did is we're like, okay, if we did like an Ed Sheeran cover or like a 5 Seconds of Summer cover, we would like go spam like every single like fan page on like Instagram with that until we would basically get blocked. Okay. But we did that like day in, day out, just to get people to watch the cover. And that was like for quite a while. That was like months of doing that, basically, just to try and get people to notice us, because we were starting off, with no songs, from Perth, no touring. So it's like, okay, what on earth can we do so that people will see us? Because, we're just the mindset like back in 2015 is that, there's only one way for us to get to that point of touring, and that's for people to want to take us on tour. And then how on earth are we going to make people want us to take us on tour? People have to at least know who we are in those states. So social media was definitely like one of the big things which like helped with that initially. And like, I'm sure like maybe some people who are on the Zoom call right now, like saw one of our spams on the Instagram comments and saw the covers. So it was that and like a lot of rehearsing at the Hen House. I think we've definitely passed the 100K on the 100 plus on the little board up there.
Oh, definitely.
On the wall.
Yes, You're on the wall of fame for sure.
But yeah, a lot of rehearsing there. That was a really big thing, for sure, because it was one thing like, we were like writing like the demos and the songs for the EP, but for a band that had an extreme lack of live performances before, like obviously our first live performance, and once we did start playing shows, it was very telling that we had a lot to work on. Totally. Yeah. By the way, that it took us 15 minutes after we started our set to start our set.
Yes, that's right. But what was so interesting to me, and I think the takeaway here is like, back then, Instagram, there was still a way to work out how to game the system to get lots of followers, but real
Mm.
followers, not like buying followers. And you guys did that through your covers, through commenting on the fan pages of some of the artists that were similar to you. And you were able to build that following through hard work to 20,000. Today, there is that same arbitrage happening on other social media platforms. So right now it's TikTok. So if you're a band that's starting out and you're trying to think about, okay, how do we break through the noise? How do we get someone to notice us? It's probably going to be TikTok as opposed to Instagram. Instagram
Mm.
was the newish thing back in 2015. So I think bands need to try find what works for them, what's also true to them, and is a way for you to try and grow your audience, because it was super impressive when I'd met you at the studio. I liked you as people. We had that coffee. I liked you even more as people. I really dug the tunes you were writing. Then I saw you had 20,000 followers on Instagram, which was more than like most of the Perth bands combined. I thought, well, there's something going on here. And I think like this is what bands really need to do is it's up to them to create a buzz and create an energy. And then you had 100 people at your first show at HQ. So automatically it makes people like me and other people interested in the act to want to work with you. Steve, I'm going to skip ahead for a second because I think what's so cool is when I look back, you know, we're reflecting on the very beginning of the journey, 2015. We just talked about the first show. The last Faim show I saw was on December 12th, 2019. It was a headline show in London at the Electric Ballroom, the same stage that Jimi Hendrix has played on. And if we're fast forwarding to the end between the two shows, I'm going to run a few numbers past you for your benefit and for everyone that's listening. So in the space from then to now, and since you released your first Faim song, Saints of the Sinners, in February 2018, the Faim has had gone from 0 to 80 million streams in 27 months. You've played 237 shows across 21 countries. You've played on 15 different tours, including 3 in the US, 4 in Australia, 8 in Europe. You played 14 European festivals. Summer is a Curse is about to pass 30 million streams on Spotify. Summer is a Curse was number 2 at radio in Czech Republic, number 4 in France, number 11 in Switzerland, 12 in Germany, 36 in Belgium. 1 million monthly listeners on Spotify. We still can't get played on radio in Australia, but that's okay. You can't have it all. Summer is a Curse just went gold in France, so you've got your first gold plaques coming around. You wrote about 70 songs in that 4-year period. There was 2 lineup changes. You've played on 4 different continents, and you've released 1 album. So it's been an unbelievable ride. I mean, how are you feeling when you think about all of that, Steve?
Well, that depends when you ask me. That you're asking me now, it's like, yeah, it's well, that's a lot. But yeah, it's just crazy. It's like, yeah, wow, that is definitely that is a
It's
lot.
mad. It's
It's
mad
crazy.
because it's part of the appeal of what attracted me to this, and then eventually managing you guys is the idea of like, can you take a band from the rehearsal room to the stages of the world, and what would that journey look like? I had obviously experienced it to a certain degree in Gyroscope, but with Gyroscope, it was very much focused around touring Australia. Um, do you think, Steve, you know, you've had a bit of time to reflect on it now. Um, was was it as good as was the touring recording overseas touring experience as good, or maybe better, or maybe not as good as you had expected or hoped it would be?
It was awesome, man. Like literally to kick it off, like our first tour was in Lincoln. Well, our first show was in Lincoln, UK,
Yeah,
which is gnarly and definitely something that we never expected. Well, which came after the whole recording experience of 2017,
yeah,
um, which in itself was crazy, going from writing just like in the computer room to like writing with like world class producers and artists and co-writers and everything, which is like a
yeah,
extremely wild experience to be thrown into like that. And you definitely have to just learn as you go, I think, is like the biggest thing.
yeah,
Because yeah, it went from writing like a couple of like half songs a week. We wrote like 30, it was like, yeah, 30 like minute long songs leading up to going to work with Feldmann, only of which half of one of those ideas was used. But
yeah,
like literally all of that is just like grinding those gears, like working them out. So
yeah,
that one idea which we worked on day one with Feldmann, all sweaty and stinky and nervous and
Yes, yes.
everything.
Well,
Very stinky.
yes. There was a lot of, someone had to have a shower, I do believe, halfway
Yeah.
through that first session with Feldman. But I'll tell you what, actually, this is a good way to approach this, Steve. Why don't we do this in chronological order? We've just touched on 2015. Let's jump into 2016. I will fast forward to June 15th, 2016. I got an email from you guys, and you shared me a link to the new EP, which was Get Up, Get Out. Was it? Was that the
Yes,
new EP? Yes.
that is
Oh, geez.
correct.
And I listened to that and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I felt like it was a huge step up. I sent a copy of it to my girlfriend, now wife, Brianne. I sent it to my good buddy, Timmy Marshall, people that I trust implicitly. And I asked them what they thought. They loved it. And I sent you guys an email, which I've got here. And I'll just read you what I wrote back to this email. I said, lads, really sensational work. I love the EP. Huge step up and overall very strong. 4 exclamation marks. Well done, all caps. Get Up, Get Out is my favorite. Definitely the single, I reckon. And then I said, I have now emailed Michael Taylor. He's the top dog at Universal Music Australia. Heath Bradbury, he's the head of A&R at Warner's. Jaden Comerford, the head of Unified. Linda Basides at Mushroom. Craig Hawker at Sony. So I share that just quickly because at the end of the day, like I'm fortunate. I've been in the music industry a long time. I can share good music with my contacts, and I always want to do that for bands at the Hen House. And you guys had worked really hard, and sort of almost wanted to reward you for that hard work by sharing it with a bunch of those people. Tell us about that EP, Steve. You had obviously worked hard recording it, and did it feel like a step up for you?
Yeah, for sure. Like one thing, I remember that email so well because we were just like, yes, like yes.
Yeah,
At the end of that, I was like, yes, it was worth it. But yeah, that EP was definitely like another like learning curve. It's written especially slow. That one, that was like there was five or six songs on there. It was like one song a month, basically, like
yeah,
a song a month. So it was extremely slowly written, but we were still working out all that at that stage. But at least like at that time, we'd started to get like a grip on like playing live shows more,
yeah,
and we were definitely taking everything a lot more seriously and like really trying to get the gears into motion.
yeah,
Like the first EP, I was like at university and trying to like figure everything out. But then come 2016, took a gap year to
yeah.
see how it would all go. I mean, I didn't really end up knowing like how to actually stop uni. That was
Yes,
like one thing. Like, how do you stop you? I didn't actually stop it. Like, I just
sure.
like
You just didn't show up.
yeah, I just stopped showing up. I guess I don't know. To this day, I still don't really know how that
Yeah,
works.
you're probably still enrolled. They're waiting for you to come back, Stevie. Jeez.
Yeah. Good old Jim Legend's waiting for me to come back to composition course.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, like 2016, we started taking everything more seriously. We started like, okay, this is what we all want to do full time. And so that's the first thing we started doing was recording the Get Up, Get Out EP. And yeah, really focusing on trying to expand the fan base. So doing covers on Instagram and sharing them to Facebook, and just trying to keep up ways to engage with everyone
yeah,
and keep people interested, because when you've only released like five or six songs in the past on one EP, got to try and keep people interested for when the second
yeah.
one comes around. And yeah, that was the main focus until we saw that good old John Feldmann put up a thing on his Instagram after that,
Yes,
asking for the demos. They are yes, like the biggest post ever of our lives, basically. And
yes.
we did a cover of an All Time Low song called Something's Got to Give. And I played guitar. That was probably the last time you'll see Stevie playing guitar and anything.
Yeah, yeah.
I had my two notes that I played
And
as
what did you
messy as
send?
ever.
Did you send that cover to John? So this is a pretty important point. So John Feldman puts a message on his Instagram, and what's the message on Instagram?
Basically asking for unsigned unsigned bands with touring experience to hit him up with demos. So technically we didn't have any demos. So we had the EP and like what we've released and like the cover.
Yep.
So we were like, here's like our music. So we sent like a couple of songs from that Get Up, Get Out EP, and we sent the cover. And yeah, basically we just said, look, this is what we want to do. Excuse me. That's what we want to do. We want to do this full time. We already are doing this full time.
Yep.
We just want to do whatever it takes to be able to like get, like I said before, get to that next step. Like, what is that next step for us? Maybe this is an opening that could lead us to that.
Yes.
And we basically then completely forgot about the email because we thought we'd never hear back. And it was like 3 or so weeks later, we actually heard back from, I think it was Ali, who
Yep.
was John's assistant at the time, came back and emailed us saying that he liked what he'd heard and wanted to organize a meeting. And then we're just like, oh, and first of all, I thought it was like fake. And I'm like, okay, this is like some spam. But then, so we gave her a store. We're like, okay, Ellie, what's her name? I'm like, oh my God, she actually is an assistant for Feldmann. And so we're like, oh gosh, this is something. So who do we email? Rob Nassif, because we've got no idea what to do from here. So we said,
Yes.
what do we do? Send Rob an email. Like, oh.
Yep.
So
No,
that was it.
It was exciting. I mean, I think at this point, I don't know if I was managing you at this point. I think I was considering it. I think what had happened was, I'd sent that email out to all the music industry, the A&R people at the various record labels, and Heath from Warner's really liked it. And he flew over to your HQ show that was happening at the end of June. And I was traveling at the time, so I wasn't able to go to the show. But so Heath came to the show. He checked you guys out and he really liked it. And I've known Heath for a long time. He's Carnival's manager. Before that, he was Jebediah's manager. And he had actually signed Gyroscope way back in the day to his independent label. So I had a good relationship with Heath. And he was sort of umming and ahhing about whether, his concern was that you were still a developing act. It was going to take a lot of work. To which I countered, look, Heath, they are a developing act, but there's so much potential. I'll tell you what, if you sign them to Warner's, I'll manage the band. Then you can rest easy. I'll manage the band. You sign them to Warner's. Let's do this. Let's work together on something. And he ummed and he ahed and it went backwards and forwards on email for a while and it sort of dragged on. Eventually he came back and said, you know what? It's just too much work and, it's not a priority for Warner's right now. And he decided to pass. And of course, when someone says no, it does tend to get my back up with things because it's almost like, a personal insult. Not that it is. Heath's a great guy. But I'm like, oh, well, I'll bloody well show Heath. And that was when I think a little switch went off in my head and I thought, okay, maybe it's time to take the plunge here in managing a band. And it was about this time that you sent me that email from John. And then you had a show coming up like 3 days later at Gozzy Rock. And I thought, okay, let's go see the Faim play at Gozzy Rock. I hadn't seen you play for about, I don't know, a year. So Brian and I trekked down to Gosnells, which is a suburb of Perth, Western Australia, and saw you guys play at Gozzy Rock. And halfway through the first song, I looked at Brian, she looked at me, we had a little smile, and then I knew in my head I want to manage you guys. And so we caught up. I said, okay, boys, I want to manage you guys. We've got this whole John Feldmann thing going on. How do we play that? And I think the first thing that happened with John was we organized a FaceTime call for you guys to speak with John, but you were away on bloody army camp or something like that.
Yeah, I was up, where was I? I was in Karratha. Well, when I ended up flying back home. But yeah, I was on an 11-day tour with the Australian Army Band Perth. And we get told that like Feldmann sends an email and they had the FaceTime call. They're like, okay, we're FaceTime calling now. I'm like, oh gosh, I'm not there for, oh my God, this is the most nervous thing. Something like this truck. We're driving in a truck and I'm just like, oh, I'm so nervous. And then they get off the call and I get a buzz. I'm like, what did Feldmann say? And he wanted us to rewrite and re-record the songs that we thought were our best songs and send them to him completely reworked, reimagined by the end of the weekend, which was 2 days. And I was like, oh my gosh, like you have to get home. There's like no ifs and buts about it. And I still had like 4 days left on this tour. And so went to the boss and I was like, oh, sir, I need, like, this is such an opportunity that like I can't miss. And so I took like this smallest plane ever back from Karratha back down to Perth. Straight away got on it. We were like, smashed it out like, oh gosh, And I think like Josh was like really sick at the time, and he was like being like sick, like in between takes, and we like stayed up all night, tried to like reimagine, like we reimagined one of them, and then we're just like so strapped for time that the second one just ended up being like an acoustic version, like stripped back with some like alternative melodies
Yep.
and stuff like that. But just to like get it done, just show him that we could like reach a deadline, because we didn't want the first thing, we didn't want to fail like the first task that he set us. And so we did that. And then I remember we were on our way to the Hen House, and we were on our way to meet you somewhere. Because I remember
Yep.
being on the train on the
Yes.
Monday with like no sleep, photo shoot. We were
Hen
doing a
House Live. Yes,
Hen House
that's right.
live. Yes. We're on our way to that, and we're just like so tired. Like, ugh. And we get the email from John saying, write more songs. And that's it. It was just like
Yeah.
the email like header. And we're like, that's good.
Yes.
Like
Yeah. That's a
it
start.
it took us a moment. We're like, that's good, I think. And
Yep.
then we're just like, yeah, no worries. And so we started writing more songs,
Yep.
which is basically it, which started the whole song idea journey of writing the 30 ideas, of which I had to then fly back up to Carnarvon to finish the tour
Yes.
after that. But actually started, while I was waiting to rebook my flights, started writing the verse melody for Infamous, which
Yes.
was idea 2. But the
Yep.
first idea sent to John, because idea 1 was really awful.
That's right.
So he didn't put that one forward. But idea 2, the first one, was Infamous.
Yep, that's right. I remember you guys sent me Infamous before we decided to send it to John, and you were saying, what do you think, Rob? And I loved it. I thought, geez, fellas, this is again a big step up on your previous stuff. And at that point, every correspondence with Feldmann, what we would do is I would write the email, I would send it to you on
Yeah.
text, you guys would copy and paste it. So all the correspondence with Feldmann was all done through me, but coming from you guys. We kept it quiet that I was managing you guys really for the first, I don't know, 3 months. And Feldmann loved what became Infamous. And that journey continued where you would write, essentially you guys are writing 1 minute of music, which was a verse, a chorus, and a riff in any order, but you would send that across. And I think, if I think back to it, why I think that really worked is it freed you guys up to create lots of music quickly. And when you have that freedom to create music and that, this is just one idea of many, it allows you guys to experiment. So much of my feedback to you guys at that time was like, great, that's awesome. Okay, why don't you try this? Why don't you experiment with that? And you guys really ran with it and came up with 30 ideas over the course of about 6 months, was it?
Yeah, I think it was 4 to 6 months, something along those times. I think it was August. Yeah,
Yep,
probably.
yep.
I think so.
And
Yeah.
and then you're dealing with John, and then I guess it was, I guess probably the start of 2017 or the end of 2016. He essentially invites you guys to LA. Is that right?
Yeah. We got the email. When was it? I think it was like January 2017. We got oh no, it was a call. It was like, oh no, it's like a text. And he asked for 2 of us to come to LA. And we were definitely like firm on having like all 4 of us go as a band, and then finally worked that out. And then we tried, it was like writing just like a few more ideas to like get like everything flowing, and then also trying to get like our chops up, because I remember having that call with you, Rob. We're like, do we write or do we practice or what do we do?
Yes.
Because we was like so stressed, because like we're about to go to this studio in California, and just had like no idea like what it would be like. And I still think basically nothing could prepare us for that except for just keep on getting the chops up on writing to be able to like survive the
Well,
studio
yeah. Well, let's
and the
get into that, Steve.
pacing and
Let's
all.
get into that, mate, because it was like, I think there was a lot of nerves from everyone involved. I was nervous. I went and met John a few days before you guys arrived. I flew to LA, and John invited me to his house. And even the first meeting with John was just absolutely bizarre. Sort of walked in there, and he walked in and he gave me a hug and he's like, okay, come on. And then we went outside at his studio and we started chatting real like intensely for about 15 minutes about the Faim and you guys and your journeys and who you were and this and that. And he wanted to know about me. And then he just got up and he said, oh, 1 second. And he got up and he left and he didn't come back. And I was sitting at his
Classic.
pool outside at his house for an hour just by myself thinking, do I text him? Is he coming back? I don't know what's happening. And eventually I walked back into his house and then I walked back to where the studio was. I found his assistant there and ended up sitting there for another hour. So it had been almost 2 hours since I'd seen John. He eventually came back with Travis Barker. Travis Barker had dropped in. They started chatting. Travis wanted to know about the Faim. We're chatting about it. And then Travis invited me and John over to his place for dinner. So we ended up going to Travis's house for dinner and had a great night there, talking about drums and eating some tasty food. And I remember thinking, gosh, this whole management thing's not so bad. This is a good start. And then you guys arrived a few days later. Walk us through that first day, rocking up to Feldy's studio, and what happened on that very first day.
Yeah, so the first day, rocking up, extremely nervous. That was just like the worst flight in the world there. When you're like flying, it's a long flight to begin with, but let alone when you're just thinking of like just going into the unknown. That was just like so freaky, and just like sitting there like excited but terrified at the same time. And we're like walking up the biggest driveway in the entire world, just this massive, huge Feldmann driveway. And we go in, and then we go into the waiting room, the infamous waiting room.
Yes.
and then we're just waiting for John to come in, and then you can hear him coming from like 10 meters away. We're like, oh gosh, here we go. And then he comes in, it's like, hi, I'm John. And then meet everyone. Okay, so you're gonna play me something. And he asks us to play him something, and we're like, if we could just ask where the instruments.
Yeah, that's right.
We're just in his waiting room.
Yeah, you don't know where to go. You've got no instruments.
Yeah. He's like, oh, yeah, what do you want? I'm like, a piano, I guess, a guitar. Yeah. What do you have? I don't know. We're our house, bro. Like, we don't want to say, like, we don't want to be like, yeah, we're just confused. We're just four confused Australians just up there, just have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, we went into into his like lounge room, the piano room. There are many rooms. I don't know which one the lounge room is quite, but the piano room.
That's right.
And we went to the piano room and we played him, or what was Idea 2, and which became infamous, firstly. And then he stopped us. Well, no, he didn't stop. We stopped. And then there was like 30 seconds of just nothing.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing. It was just like this terrifying silence. And I was like, oh gosh. And we just sit there like, would you like to hear another one? And it's like, how do we get to the chorus quicker? Yeah. And we're like, oh, well, we can try things. Okay, get to the chorus quicker. And then just nuts off and goes to like make a coffee or something like that. We're like, oh gosh, we better get to the chorus quicker. And then comes back, you should change the chorus too. I'm like, oh gosh, okay, get to the chorus quicker and change the chorus. And so the verse was actually double as long as it is now. It was like the first verse was a double verse, or an extremely long one. So we cut it in half, which became like the verses it is now, basically, or like the intro, verse 1, whatever it is. The song has an interesting.
Sure.
And so we did that, and we came back, and then we started working on the chorus. But then he's also like, okay, I got a coffee, and I came up with an idea. And then came up with the idea for My Heart Needs to Breathe, like there and then. We're like, oh, okay. And it's like, what do you think of this concept? I'm like, yeah, that sounds cool. That's different. It's like, okay, you two work on that song. You two work on that song and finish them and bring them to me in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And we're like, what?
Yeah. It was all very quick, wasn't it?
Very quick and very stressful. And we're like, wow, like this is pace. This is pace. And so we came up with the chorus idea. Okay, this could be cool for Infamous. Okay, this is something cool for where My Heart Needs to Breathe can go. And so we brought them in, instantly started tracking them. And whilst like Josh was tracking vocals for one, like I'm in there working in like the second studio with Matt Pauling. working on the instrumental for another one. It's this like whole like factory there.
Yep. Yeah,
And
this
we're
is
like,
all on the
well,
first day. Yeah, yeah. In the
all day
first like
one.
6 hours. Yeah, yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, yeah, crazy. All day one. The only thing keeping us going, John's coffee machine, giving us like double shots every like half an hour. So it was like boom, boom, boom. And so like not only is like the adrenaline rush going, but the caffeine hit is strong. And so we're like bouncing off the walls like
Yeah.
everywhere. And but yeah, we ended up getting like those two songs done. Well, like to the demo stage, like the mix one stage in that day.
It was crazy. I couldn't
I'm
believe
like,
it.
wow. Yeah.
I just remember, I was sitting in the piano room with you guys when you guys had to come up with the new chorus. John had left and he's like, okay, write a new chorus. And, you guys started working on it and you did. You wrote the new chorus for Infamous as it is now. And you kind of looked at me and you were like, what do you think? And I was just like, yeah, that's really good. And then Feldy liked it. And like you say, that first day, it went, we arrived at 11 and you left at 11.
Mm.
And no, actually, you arrived at like I think we arrived at like 9 and you left at like 12 or 1. It was a huge day.
Something
And
ridiculous.
you guys were also jet lagged, but sort of My Heart Needs to Breathe, Infamous, done on the first day. It was wild. My mind was blown that the whole process could be so quick. And the amount of pressure he put on you guys to come up with ideas, sections on the spot, I thought was just terrifying. But you guys absorbed that pressure amazingly well. And by the end of the day, when we were driving back to the Airbnb we had rented, I was just like blown away by your mental toughness and how you guys had dealt with it.
It was a tough one. I tell you that I was on that keyboard of John's, just like terrified and sweating and just trying to get it right on the right on the first time and just come up with stuff. It was crazy, and I can literally remember it like super clear because it's just you like record that part. It's like, okay, like next part.
Yeah.
And like, there is the next part. It's like, well, record it. Wow.
Yeah.
That sort of pace. It's like, okay, record the next section now. And it's
Yeah.
a new section, but write one, record it. Someone's going to be here in 1 minute. So just get it done before then. It's like, whoa. So like,
Yeah.
it's insanely quick pace. And you just have to like, a lot of just sort of gut instinct decisions and just going with the flow. Like then.
Honestly, Stevie, like I think there's something to that whole process. At the time I thought this is no way to write. There's too much pressure on the guys. I'm coming from my experience with Gyroscope, and to see how this was, I thought this is not good because you guys were stressed. Josh was sweating like a maniac. Had to go have a shower halfway through that first day because the poor chap wasn't smelling so great and was sweating and was nervous and had also overdressed, was wearing like a long top. And I remember being really against like this initial process, but actually working on your gut instinct and moving quickly over time, I've sort of come around to it. And I definitely think there is something to the way Feldmann works so quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, yeah, everything that's done there, and it definitely helps. Like the way they've got it set up with like multiple engineers and stuff like that. The place is just built to smash it out. Like really, and
Yep.
especially how John is. It's like doesn't like spending like too much time on something. So you have to like you don't want to lose his interest, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So you're sort of forced to keep the energy up yourself. I think you're keeping the energy up in the room is almost just as important as coming up with new parts when
Yep.
you're over there. So like keeping everything exciting and just like keeping the ball rolling. You definitely lose track of time is like the
Yeah.
one big thing. Like there was absolutely no sense of time in the studio because we would get there in the morning and just be trying to come up with something because
Yep.
all of our ideas will run dry within a couple of days. Like we're running dry.
Yes.
Like we've been writing 2 songs a day. It's like we're coming into this studio session blind, like absolutely
Yep.
blind. So we get in there and try and like come up with an idea like that morning. So as soon as we get in, it's like, okay, quick, grab the guitar. Like let's get something before like
Yep.
John comes. So we're prepared. So you're trying to be prepared. And then like a lot of the time we would then just start, like John would like hear like something that we've got, and then he would present something, try and like mesh them together, like or work on both or anything. And like a lot of the time it's just like the world of multitasking. So
Yep.
someone will be there tracking okay, we're going to get the instrumental done whilst the lyrics are being done, and lyrics and melody. So if you're doing the melody, make sure you get back together in 5 minutes so that they're matching up on the same vibe. But keyboard here, guitar here. When you finish that, get straight over and continue yesterday's idea in
Yep.
studio 2, get that done. But make sure you still keep in mind writing the melodies for this one so we don't fall behind. And so it's, a lot. You got to really we had to just keep focused, I guess, and just, a lot of brain work.
Yeah, it was. The work schedule was just crazy. I was shocked actually, just seeing how hard he worked and how hard you guys worked and how much expectation he had on you guys. And he's also quite he doesn't give you a lot. It's just sort of like it's straight down to business. There's not really much chit chat at the start of the days. It's just like it's all business. Get in there, come up with the best song, be really brutal and blunt on what's expected. I think the next, so it was like Infamous, My Heart Needs to Breathe. Then I think it was Million Stars, Saints of the Sinners. So many of what became the initial batch of songs that first week, so much gold came out of that first week. And I remember by the end of that first week, Feldmann looked at me and he's like, this band is so good. He's like, this band is so talented. I can't believe how good they are. And I'm like, yeah, they're pretty amazing. Hey, and I was stoked because he hadn't really like showing his cards up until that point. It had all been very standoffish. And I was like, yeah, they're pretty special. He goes, oh no, they're incredible. He goes, extend the time here. And I was like, really? Because we were only meant to do 2 weeks. He's like, yeah, extend another 2. So I was like, okay, great. So it cost us more money, which we didn't really have, but we did. We extended another 2, and then we ended up extending again. So we ended up doing 5 weeks in LA on that first stint. Steve, I want to just touch on, at the end of that first week, we had a bunch of songs that were great, that we were stoked on. And then we had the first day off was a Sunday, and I was really enjoying that Sunday off because you guys worked on the Saturday as well. And then I got a call from John, and he said, Jason Flom is going to be at the studio in 2 hours' time. He wants to see the Faim play a couple of these songs live. And I was like, and I knew who Jason Flom was. He's a famous A&R guy, works for Republic/Lava Records. He signed Lord. He signed Stone Temple Pilots back in the day. So many great acts. And then I had to call you guys. Luckily, someone was in Wi-Fi at the local Denny's restaurant. And I'm like, fellas, you got to get into an Uber right now. Go to John's house. You're going to showcase for the head of A&R at Republic Records, which is one of the biggest record labels in the world. And you're going to play a couple of the new songs that you just wrote last week. Talk to me about that. What do you remember about that whole experience?
Oh, well, one, just to get the information right, it was Jack in a Box.
Okay,
so
good.
Less healthy than Denny's. But
Yes.
It was Jack in a Box, and it was, so we were all out, and we get the text saying that we have a showcase to an A&R in like an hour, and we're 50 minutes away from the studio, and we're a 10-minute walk from our Airbnb to be picked up, which means we need to leave now. And we're just in our like shorts and thongs. We're like, oh no. So we like leg it back, and you'd already ordered the Uber for us to, or maybe it was Brianne that ordered it. I think it was
Yes,
Brianne there.
she did. It was. Yes. Good memory.
Yeah, so Brianna ordered us the Uber. Like I said, these like experience, they stick with you like nothing.
Yeah.
And we're like running back to that Airbnb, quickly like speed change into something half presentable, even though we're looking like this. We get to the studio. Jason, Flommy and so we get there, and I remember we played Infamous acoustically and Where the River Runs, which we'd written the day before. So we're like performing a song that we've written the day before. So we're in the Uber. Lucky it's like 4 chords, so like lucky I had a breezy one. There's nothing too complex for me. Yep. But Josh has just written like 4 verses worth of lyrics, and like the choruses. So he's trying to remember the lyrics which he wrote yesterday and had 0 practice for.
Yep.
And then we get in there and do it with 0 rehearsals. So we're like, oh, just mind you, we never practiced this.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I just thought this was crazy. I was just thinking, oh my God. But he happened to be in town that day because he was there for a conference. He's from New York, but he was in LA. So the planets had aligned. But I remember thinking, I was so nervous for you guys because I was like, it's obviously a huge opportunity. Republic Records, massive label. We needed a label. And then you guys launched into it.
Yeah, and oh man, yeah, so nervous, but ended up doing really good. Like
Yeah,
I was happy. I was stoked. Like
I was too.
it was good. Yeah,
I
I
was
think.
too. I was
Yeah.
like, shit, that's good. And I remember he was like, yeah, man, that My Heart Needs to Breathe song. That's a great song. And we
Yeah.
chatted a while and we showed him some songs and we hung out. And again, it was like another one of those tests, I think, that sort of John had tested you guys and you'd come out with flying colors. And for me personally, I was just thinking, like, if I was in your shoes, having to showcase in John's piano room, do these songs acoustically that you'd never really practiced, um, and you'd had just written like the day before and a couple of days before. The pressure was so extreme. Like my heart
Yeah.
was racing, but you guys nailed it. It was super impressive. A couple of days later, we showcased for Atlantic Records doing a similar thing. BMG came down, and I've got to give Feldmann credit here. He, helped facilitate a lot of those initial meetings with them, and you did a great job showcasing. I remember the BMG meeting with Zach Katz, all sitting in the control room listening back to the songs, and he was sort of asking your vision for the band, and we ultimately ended up signing with BMG. But yeah, it was like that's where you met Jamie Neely, our A&R person, for the first time. How was that whole showcasing experience for all those different labels?
Very stressful. Yeah, that was extremely stressful because well, once again, like we were talking about just before, like what was the plan in 2015? It was like what was the play shows tour and try and get signed or something. And it's like now we like fast forward like 2 years and it's like, well, this is happening. Like we have the opportunity now to like actually make this happen. And I was like all those like steps like leading up to that. So then when the A&R from the label is like there listening, gosh, that was stressful. That was just like it meant like immense pressure at the piano,
Yeah.
and just trying to I guess like we'd done it before without any practice, so at least we had that going for us. So we're like, hey, we did it with no practice.
Yeah.
It'll be fine from now on. Like we know we can get through this. But yeah, it was just like it was really cool to, well, one, actually like get people's like opinions on these tracks and like someone from like a record label which we've never had before.
Yep.
It was definitely a different vibe. Like they looked at the songs in like completely different ways that we hadn't really thought of before, and breaking it down and discussing which ones they thought were like stronger,
Yep.
which ones like what they were looking for out of a band. And that the day with BMG is when you really shone, Rob. We were like, wow, Rob can talk so well. When you were
Thank
talking
you.
with Zach,
Yes.
that was a real, yeah, you slayed that. That was so good. Talking about just like the future of the band. You could basically see that we were stumped. Like we'd exhausted all of our basically brain power, and it was like midnight or something like that. And then you're
Yep.
like, well, let me introduce myself. I'm the band's manager, Rob Nassif, and absolutely slayed the conversation. They're like, well, I think Rob is right here. They're like, yeah, Rob's really got the point. We're like, yes, Rob.
Yeah, it was a cool moment, wasn't it? We were sitting in the control room. Zach was, asking you guys about, your thoughts and plans and ideas around the songs. And then he sort of looked at me. Zach Katz was the president of BMG USA. And then he looked at me and he's like, well, what's your plan, Rob? What do you think? And I said, I guess I wasn't going to really share all of this stuff, but I remember sort of like the vision like that we had talked about was I said, they're a developing band. It's going to take time, and we want to sign to a label that's going to be willing to give us the time. And also part of what we need is tour support. Like we're going to need a certain amount of tour support because we're going to tour really hard, and we're going to try to build this up across multiple territories all at the same time. We're not going to focus just on the US. We're going to do the US, we're going to do Europe, we're going to do Australia. And with your support and your help, we will, build these markets and hope that certain markets pop before other ones do. And then, we just riffed on it. And at the end of it, he kind of was like, yeah, I like that. And it was like, yeah, all right, okay, cool. And
Yeah.
it was good. I really liked Zach a lot. So we finished those Feldmann sessions. You guys went back to Perth. I kept the dialogue going with the labels. Our attorney in the US shopped those songs to a bunch more labels. John Janik at Interscope Records. We had some conversations with them. I went and met some more A&R people at Republic Records. But more and more, we kept, feeling very enthusiastic about BMG. They were pretty excited about the band. And from a deal perspective, not that we need to get into the nuts and bolts of it, they were willing to give us the amount of tour support I was requesting, whereas the other labels weren't really willing to come to the party there. And, just from my experience in Gyroscope, I knew that we needed a sort of six-figure sum of money in order to tour solidly for 2 years. And we got that from BMG, negotiated that deal. You guys were back home, and I encouraged you. I was like, look, fellas, everyone's jazzed on these new songs. You've had a little bit of a break now, but go back and write some more songs. Take what you learned with Feldmann and apply it. And you guys wrote a song called Make Believe, which to this day is probably still maybe my favorite Faim song. And I know for a lot of people on this call, Make Believe is probably their favorite as well. How did Make Believe come about? So obviously you're not working with Feldmann. It's just you guys. You're just writing this yourselves. How did Make Believe come about?
Yeah, well, that one was really one that, well, I think let me think. I'm going to get this right now. The second half of the verse was an idea that we sort of just tried out with Chris Winterburn.
Yep.
From the who did work at the Hen House.
Yes, that's right.
So he came to do a few songs with us, and that was something that we just didn't end up using. But it was like a part of the second half of the verse, which
Yep.
was, we're like, okay, well, I think this one little melody is cool. Like, let's try and work on that. And yeah, literally the whole song then came from that one tiny little bit, and which we just deconstructed from another idea. I think we sat back, we wrote like three or four songs in a couple of days, and then just took a step back and then came back and just started from that tiny little point. And yeah, the song, we pretty much wrote that one acoustically. And yes,
Yeah.
we sent you the acoustic demo of that one, just completely unfleshed out. And then I think we sent that back to John and the label to be like, look, we're still here, we're still writing. Just because we're not in the studio doesn't mean we're not working. We're serious about this. Let's keep this ball rolling.
And it was brilliant because you sent me Make Believe. I was already living in New York by that stage. When one of you guys sent it to me on WhatsApp, I was walking in the streets, put it on, had my headphones on, and listened to it. And I thought, freaking hell, man. This is so good. I couldn't believe it. I was like, holy shit, this is such a mega song. And I just listened to it on repeat for gave it probably 10 spins. And I wrote back to you guys. I was like, holy crap, this song is the next level. You guys just keep improving out of sight. And again, trying to bring this back to how does this apply to a band that's rehearsing at the Hen House right now? It's like learning, educating. You went to Feldmann, you had this very intense 4 or 5 week experience, but you guys absorbed so much of what you learned. And then the quality of that song that you guys wrote without him was just on a whole other level. And at that point in time, just, working through this, BMG was really coming to the forefront. We had begun negotiating the deal. We were getting close to finishing the deal. And I'd been pushing John. I said, look, we've got 10 great songs here. And at that point, that was going to be the album. But I kept pushing John, just saying, look, the guys, it was such a great experience. Why don't we come over for another 2 weeks? We don't, just to try work on 5 songs. The guys will be more comfortable. They know the process. And he pushed back at first, but eventually relented. And you guys came back to LA and you did a bunch more songs, including Make Believe, including Summer is a Curse. What else? Midland Line. What else got done in that second stint?
I Can Feel You.
I Can Feel You.
When It Comes was the last song, the very last one.
When It Comes was from that second stint.
Studio with John London.
That's right. That's right.
Very last day. I think that was those ones. That was all.
Yeah, and then we were invited down to BMG's offices that overlook the whole of West Hollywood. They put on a nice spread for us. Feldy came down. We were all down there, and you guys signed your record contract. How did that all feel, Stevie?
That was so cool. That was just the sickest day ever. Like it was finally like after all of the sessions and all like the stressful times trying to come up with 10 different melody sections a day and everything. It was like, then is like when it also like paid off. So that was just like a super cool moment. Like awesome view and just like really something to soak in, like signed a record deal, which was once again, like looking back to where we were in 2015, 16 and what we were just hoping to achieve and now somehow like come to light. And it seemed extremely quick and just like out of nowhere. But then there's just like all those steps sort of like adding up to each other to get to that point, which was just super awesome.
Yeah, it was brilliant, mate. I remember feeling incredibly proud of you guys, excited. I mean, you had basically every test that had got thrown at you guys, you passed with flying colors. And you'd really gained the respect of John because of it. So much so, in fact, that he then asked you to stay on in LA to
Yes.
co-write. John loves working with you, loves your creativity, and you also work very quickly. And it was at that point, he called me up first and he said, do you think Stephen would be willing to stay in LA and co-write Andy Black's new album with me? And I thought, geez, I think he'll be all about it. You're a Black Veil Brides fan. And so called you, gave you the good news. And sure enough, you ended up staying on in LA and co-writing with Andy Black. I actually saw someone ask this question. How was that process, working with Andy Black on what became his new album, actually co-writing the songs with Andy and John?
Yeah, that was a really cool process because like mainly because it was so different to writing like with the Faim in John's studio, like same studio, same place, writing at the same keyboard. Actually, I was facing a different way. I was facing the left side of the room instead of out the window, which was a change.
Yep.
But because John was at the computer on the main computer, because it was just me, John, and Andy, and then a co-writer if they were there. So I got where I was sitting where John used to sit. So I was feeling pretty special.
Yes.
But it was extremely different because they mainly wanted me, because like what happened, I was definitely more in sort of like taking less of the reins, like sitting back. I'm like, yep, this is Andy's thing. I'm just gonna like not dip my toes too much in the water on like the first day. And it definitely became a lot of like basically me building the tracks, which was a lot different to Run with the Fame because it's like everything, like responsible for everything. And on that first day, John and Andy had like a melody for a song. I think it was Heroes We Were was the first one. And I think that ended up on the record.
Yep.
That was like the first song. And they're like, okay, we're going to go for coffee. You remember the chords? I'm like, oh, from when you just sang it there without telling me to listen to the chords? Like, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm like, oh, yeah, I think so. Like, good, build the song. Do you remember the melody? I'm like, I think, yeah. Like, great, build the song. See,
yeah.
And that was that. And then it would be like myself and John London in there. And we're like, oh, wow, okay, we're building this song for Andy now. And this is like up to us to get this started. And so we did, like, we followed, like, they let us know like what sort of like vibe they wanted with that. And we built that up. And it was a little bit different. Like some days would be like more collaborative than others, but it was just such a different experience. And then I remember they had a conversation with the record labels one night, and they decided they wanted to change up the vibe of a couple of the songs. And so I was like, okay. And so this time I was staying with John London, who was in London, but I call him London's. I found out like months later that his name was actually Lundin, but it was too late. It was too late. London it is.
London is. Carry on.
I was staying with John. And so my work hours were whatever London's work hours were, because he lived, it was about a 45-minute drive home, and with the traffic, 1.5 hours drive there. So it was long stints. And that night, the rest of the record label was coming the next morning to listen to the songs, and they wanted to completely change the vibe of 3 of them.
Okay. Yeah, these Andy Black songs. Yeah.
Yeah, these Andy Black songs. And so that was one of the craziest nights. because we then had to go into full engineer work mode. And so this is like another like completely different world of writing and recording, which I've never like experienced before, as basically being part of the engineer team of completely reworking and recreating the vibe of these songs.
Yep.
And we did it. We did three songs in one night. So credit to all the engineers that were there doing that. And come the next morning, the label comes in, they're like, oh, this is exactly, yeah. Hell yeah. I'm like, oh gosh. But we left at 3 a.m., drove back 45 minutes to John's house, to London's house, slept like, well, first we had a beer and watched Family Guy because we just needed to like
chill out.
And then up at 6. We got like 2 hours sleep, then up at 6 to get to the studio by 8 to be there for when like the showcase was. So that, yeah. Once again, there's never a dull moment in the studio.
No.
And you're writing for.
And look, full story, full circle, you know, those songs eventually got released. Andy Black released that album. You had 3 co-writing cuts on the record, and Andy Black invited the Faim to tour around the US on a 28-date US Canadian tour. So it was really cool that whole circle sort of became complete. So we now had the record deal. We had done the 2 sessions in LA. I was here living in the US, and the next thing was to try and build a team around this and to also meet all the people at BMG. And, you know, like so often you hear people say, managers, myself included, when you read blogs, you watch these Zoom things, you'll always hear the refrain, it's all about the song. And ultimately what that means is the quality of the song will open the doors for you. And that was absolutely 100% true, because whilst I had very good ties with the Australian music industry, on an international level, I didn't really have those same ties, but I was able to send, I sent 2 or 3 songs, Saints of the Sinners, Million Stars, Summer is a Curse. I sent those 3 songs to a bunch of people that I knew worked in, the UK music industry. One of those people was a friend, Cara, who worked for Festival Republic. And the reason I emailed them to her was I knew she had worked with a bunch of these big agents in the UK. And I said, hey, Cara, check out these 3 songs. I'm interested in these agents, and I'm just sort of wondering what your opinion on these agents are. And she said, geez, Rob, I just listened to the songs. These songs are fantastic. Can I send this to someone? I said, sure, go for it. Unbeknownst to me, she had sent it to the guy, John Mack, that books Reading and Leeds Festival. John Mack then emails me back. He's like, hey, Rob, Cara told me you're going to be in London in 2 weeks' time. You're looking at these various agents. Why don't you come to the office and I'll tell you about the agents? I work with them all. Obviously I book Reading and Leeds Festival. So 2 weeks later, I was in London and I was sitting with John Mack, the guy that books Reading and Leeds Festival. He gives me his opinion on all the festivals, and he says to me, you know what I do here, Rob? I said, yeah, John, I know you book Reading and Leeds Festival. It's obviously an iconic festival. He goes, yes, that's right. And I said, and it would be a waste of an opportunity if I didn't throw my hat in the ring here for the Faim. I know you like the songs, and whilst we haven't released any music, we will be releasing the first song in February, and we've got the support of BMG. And if it's not about the money you would pay us, it's not about where we would be on the bill. You would make me look very good walking into the BMG boardroom meeting tomorrow if you could give me a slot on the festival. And he laughed and he's like, I like that, Rob. Done. I'll give you a slot. And so I was just like, what the hell? We just got the Faim on Reading and Leeds Festival. That's very nice. And then he said, okay, Rob, I've got to run. I'm going to bring Sean Ryman. He books Download Festival. I sent him the songs. He loves the songs. He wants to talk to you. Sat down with Sean Ryman. He's like, mate, these songs are fantastic. Do you want to play Download Festival? And I was like, yes, we would love to play Download Festival UK. He's like, right, I'm going to introduce you to my friend Ben. He owns Slam Dunk Festival. Then I got introduced to Ben. Long story short, from that one meeting, sending those songs, that opened the door, and I was able to get the Faim on Slam Dunk Festival, which was 3 shows around the UK, Download Festival UK, Great Escape, and Reading and Leeds. So I think the reason I tell that story is, you need a manager to go in there and bust the door open, but it's the songs that really do the work. And you guys have worked so hard crafting those songs. That's what opened the doors. And that's how the Faim was able to get onto all these amazing festivals before they had released a single song. And I did look like a bit of a boss going into the BMG boardroom the next day. And it also forced us to pivot. That's why the UK and Europe became a key market. Now, Steve, we've been going for an hour and 15 minutes here. And we're only up to 2018.
Oh my God.
Oh, bloody hell. We're going to have to scoot ahead.
Look,
People want to ask questions, and all we're
I
doing is
did, I
talking
did warn,
nonstop.
I did warn people about this. I put something up my story. I was like, this is.
Oh my God. Okay. All right, Steve, I'm gonna take the reins here and we're gonna have to fly through
All
18
right,
and
we're
19 a
flying.
little bit quicker.
We
So
can fly.
2008, and the reason we're doing this chronologically, it's nice for people to see how the pieces of the puzzle fit together if you're in a band that's coming up. So we released Saints of the Sinners, first song, February 5th. Lots of excitement, get that out there. More importantly, we had a 11-week tour, world tour, essentially booked,
Yes.
where we were doing 22 shows with Gold on Atlantis in the UK. You were supporting Sleeping Sirens in Australia and New Zealand. Back for some of these festivals, some of your own headline shows in the UK already. I mean, which I thought was crazy, but we had to fill the dates. You did that 11-week tour. There's 56 shows. You came back to Australia, supported Paris. That was your first tour. 11 weeks on the road, straight 56 shows. I can't think of many bands that have never played a show on the East Coast yet have gone straight into a 56 show tour. How was it?
That was, I think all of my answers, all of my answers are extremely similar. That was crazy. Crazy to think. We did a lot of rehearsing. We did a lot of rehearsing for that. And there
Yep.
is a saying, which I don't know, I've heard from someone before, that one show equals 10 rehearsals. I don't know who told me that one before.
Some
Maybe
genius. Carry on.
some genius from the Hen House. Anyway, that is definitely true because as soon as you get on the stage on a tour, everything changes. Like, especially being a support act, like night after night, where the people, like we'd released one song, and so no one knows who we are. Nobody has any idea at these shows, and it wasn't even a main market tour in England. It was like a huge B market tour,
Yep.
and so the chances of someone knowing us at that stage was incredibly low. Like if there was like two people at a show that were like, "Oh my gosh, I've heard your song, I love you guys," were like, "Take free merch, something like, yes, this is
Yes.
incredible. Rob, someone knows who we are. Come here
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
check this out." So it changed a lot of things that we'd previously like not really considered, and it's like it's trying to win over a crowd in a different country, um, in half an hour to like that have never heard you before, and make them want to come to our show when we have one next, and make them want to buy our music and buy our merch. And so you just really got to give it your A game and engage to like as just engage to like the fullest extent that
Yep.
you can. And that was the biggest thing. And it was definitely daunting. The first show we played was on a stage that was like as big as a house.
It was massive,
And
wasn't it? Yeah.
that's
In
it.
Lincoln, there was like 1,500 people there.
Yeah, and we had no idea what to do with it. We're like, oh gosh, there's so much space here. We just had no idea what to do with that space.
Yeah.
And it wasn't our greatest show. It wasn't
No,
the
it
greatest show.
wasn't, was it? No, no, it was a bit of a stinker, that one.
Yes, and it could only go it could only go up from there, which was the good thing. And
Yes.
I remember we had a chat about the show after that, and that was actually especially like definitely a little bit daunting because well, it's like we're here now. Oh gosh, and so like the first show didn't go as planned,
No.
and it was because like how do we plan for something we've never done before?
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, well, there's no more rehearsing. There's no more practicing. The next show's tomorrow. I think there
Yeah.
was 13 shows in a row on like
Yes.
13 days, 13 shows on that tour. And so it was like, well, there's no more rehearsing. So everything that we do now is going to be changed in front of like 500 to 1,000 people.
Yep.
And like, no matter what, we got to come to grips with that many people are going to be watching us every night.
Yep.
So if we're going to make changes, we got to do it like quick and fast, because like each show is an opportunity that we're not going to get for like another 6 months or so. Like until if like well at that point we didn't know if we were coming back. So
Yes, and we also had a lot of important people come into the second show.
mm,
We had Claire from
cool.
BMG, Haley Connolly, our Queen Connolly, our publicist. We had Jeff Meal, our agent. You know, at that point, we had Ben Ray from Slam Dunk, all coming to see you guys for the first time. You know, I'd been hyping you guys up for months, and so it was Steffi Van Spronson, Sean Ryman. Gosh, everyone was there. All those key people that believed in the band were now at the second show. First one was a stinker, and I was just like freaking praying, please,
Mm,
boys, please play well tonight. And you did,
yeah.
you kicked ass.
Yeah.
Yay!
Like lucky that stage was so tiny. There was no room for us to move. We were
Yeah,
used to that, so
yeah, yeah.
that was no problem.
It was great, Steve. From my perspective, you guys improved just so much from that first show to the last show that I saw you on. It was incredible. The last show was Download Festival, was the 50th show of that European leg, and it was mind blowing how much you had improved. I tour managed you guys on that tour, and it was great because I was able to sort of give you guys feedback every couple of days, point out things here, point out things there, and we also all got to really know each other on that run. You finished that tour. We had dropped Midland Line, we had dropped Summer is a Curse. We started to get some support traction of playlisting. Um, the one thing that had started bubbling away was, the second biggest radio station in Germany, Antenna Bayern, had added Summer is a Curse to radio, and the radio play in Germany was starting to climb. And then you guys were back home for a little bit of a break. In the time you were having your break to working out that next tour, Summer is a Curse had sort of become, essentially a hit in Germany, had cracked the top 20 at radio, and we were really rolling. And then we were booking the next tour. And if we look at your second ever tour, because 11 weeks isn't long enough, we basically booked a 17-week world tour for your second tour. That started in August, finished in December. And I mean, if I think about this second tour, what a crazy time. We ended up losing a number of tours in this period of time. We ended up gaining tours. You had a top 12 song in Germany. We did a promo trip. You lost those members. We recorded songs in LA. You recorded Armley. You recorded Fire. We had to re-record Fire twice. Talk to me about that whole period of time, Steve-O. It's crazy.
How long you got?
Yeah, I know. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. But I think it's a pretty crazy point. God, you even stayed in New York for a week and had a week off in
Yeah,
New York City.
man, all of that. I think definitely like the thing that stood out the most about that time was like living in acting upon and trying to take advantage of uncertainty. Like that was like the biggest thing because we flew over there. We flew to play Reading and Leeds.
Yep.
Sam playing one like a practice show in front of our parents with us, and that is all. And
Yep.
Reading and Leeds was his first proper show, and that's all we had booked. Like
Yeah.
that was it. Like we still didn't know if we were doing Against the Current, and it was like literally flying into like blind faith that something would happen.
Yeah.
Like we still had the flights booked, so okay, let's do it. Like let's keep cracking. And so we ended up doing the German radio
Yes.
promo to just keep by for 3 weeks whilst we just hoped to gain a tour there. And that in essence is actually what then helped Summer is a Curse get to the point that it did, which then helped in Germany, and then which then aided Summer is a Curse getting to the point where it is in France. And that promo tour actually ended up being the biggest blessing in disguise,
It was.
which we definitely did not really see at the time, which is a funny thing. It was like the promo tour was just something to get by and to keep us there and
Yep.
to, just to do something. And it ended up being like one of like the best things we could have done because it set us up for like basically everything in the future. But it was definitely a case of being able to play things by ear and just not be afraid to give anything a go and just make the most out of any opportunity. And I remember when we were on that Against the Current tour, it was just like, well, like, got to think back. And I remember you said just like, you can't take this for granted anymore, because when we didn't know if we were touring again, that it's like, well, we're back and like, shit, we're grateful for this. And like,
Yep.
just to be able to be here, like be on the road and be playing these shows again, just like felt so good. And it's like, man, like, and it's like, hey, whatever, like late nights and long drives and like whatever it is, like we're lucky enough to be able to do this and we're back doing it, and it's amazing. And then midway through the Against the Current tour, we got confirmed on the Hands Like Houses tour. And I remember we were in
the US. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember where we were in the UK, but we're outside of Wetherspoons. The gig was on the side of a river outside where it was. The city starts with an N.
Okay.
Newcastle,
Norwich?
I think.
Newcastle.
Newcastle. I think it
Okay.
was Newcastle is when we got
Okay.
confirmed, and I was at the merch desk and I saw the like the classic, me at the merch desk. I spend half my time there.
Yeah.
I play on the stage just a side hustle to
You're a merch
keep the
seller that
fun
plays
going.
in a band. Yeah, it's fair
Yeah,
enough.
but basically, but that email was just like the most like heavens coming down that we landed a US tour, and it was
Yep.
incredible of the Hands guys to put us on that. And like fast forward to then, it's like that our first ever time in the US with an Australian band, which was incredible. And that tour was definitely like, so we hadn't done a headline tour at that point in time. And after the first day of that tour, we were like, when we headline a tour, we want to be a headlining band like Hands Like Houses. Because
Yep.
I still remember after that first show, we had so much crap in our van of like merch and everything, and everything was so crammed. They were like, "Where's your leg room?" We're like, "We got none." They're like, "Well, put some boxes in our trailer." I'm like, "No, no, no,
Yeah.
no, 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 don't." We'll settle. They're like, "Nope," and they literally go into our van, take the boxes out, and put it into the trailer. And I'm like, if you make us ask again, there'll be consequences. All right, so you
Yeah.
just put the stuff back in the trailer and don't bother us to have to ask you. And we're like, these guys are so sick. Like, these are literally the sickest guys. And, for like a headlining band to be going out of their way to help out like one of 5 acts on the bill,
Yeah.
like gnarly on day one, and then just kept it up through the whole tour. And so that was
Yeah.
definitely
Amazing
like,
guys.
yeah, the biggest highlight of what we kept in mind, like shit, like that's how it's done. Like that's
Yeah.
how you create an environment for touring, because, like you said, we're on the road for 17 weeks.
Yeah.
Like,
That was a long
imagine
time,
like,
man. Jeez.
yeah, it's a long time. And, imagine like, that you're in like a workplace and you're meeting new work colleagues every couple of weeks, and then you have like 5 weeks. Like if you like, heck, like when I was like working as a swim teacher, there were some people that I still didn't know after like months.
Yeah.
But it's like you're with these people. It's like if the bond like isn't there, it can make like a touring life. It can be very, very different to if there's like a strong bond between all the bands, and it ends up being like, when the people are awesome and the bands get along, it ends up just being such an awesome experience.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
definitely like such a key thing to for touring, and what makes touring memorable and amazing is like the people that are on it. And definitely like that was an extremely hands-on deck tour.
Yeah, no, that was
And
a
yeah,
great tour. I mean, I feel like thank God that tour came through. That was a real funny period of time, but we sort of got through it. And the Against the Current tour was like a real turning point as well. And I think, what we got back to on that tour, and I came over, I wasn't tour managing, but I did join the tour. And Brian joined us as well. And what we really tried to do was make it like fun. And I really look back fondly on that German promo tour, because we booked Airbnbs that were still super cheap, but they were all in like little country towns in Germany.
yeah,
And Sammy Ty would cook a Indian curry one night, someone else would cook something the next, but have a couple glasses of wine or a beer or two. And it was a really lovely time of like remembering that like we're all very ambitious about what we want to achieve with the band, but we need to still have fun along the way. And then when you guys came to New York City, we went and did a yoga class together. We explored, we went
ah,
running through New York City. And I think something I treasure about all of this, Steve, is no matter where we've been in the world, we've tried to still go do things and have fun, whether it's like going and splurging some cash at a beer hall in Munich, or going to the Saddle Ranch on the Sunset Strip and drinking margaritas. I mean, along the way, we try and still have fun, even though we typically don't have any money to do that. So
yeah, oh, for
it's
sure.
it's cool.
Yeah, it's definitely like and like those days, like just make everything like with the off days where you can forget that you're on tour, like can be like the best. Just like you're like, oh my gosh, like I'm on tour right now. And then, you definitely get that when, where we're in Munich in the beer hall, it
Yeah.
feels like, days of like, oh man, this is just like so sick that we get to be here doing this. We're like on like the Stan Atlantic tour where Joe gets up at 4 a.m. like after going to sleep at 2 a.m. to drive us to this like national park, like next to a lake, and we're playing Spotlight by the RV, and like making s'mores, and we find this like another like snow-covered campsite, and all the bands get together. We have a flip cup challenge, and it's just like, yeah, super, super awesome when you can take time to like just like have a lot of fun on the way.
Yeah, I mean, so much of like that's what I remember from my early days of touring with Gyroscope, and something I've always wanted to try and instill within the band. And I feel like that 17-week tour was probably one of the hardest things we've all had to go through. But we came through the other side, and that takes us into 2019, which is bloody fantastic. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to sort of break with routine, Steve. We're going to come back to 2019. People, there's been a lot of questions getting flooded in here. I want to throw this open to you, Tom Wilson. Pick a couple of questions. Let's get a few questions out of the way. Then we're going to bring it back to 2019. You feeling me, Tom?
I'm feeling you, Rob. I'm feeling you. I'm with you.
Great. What do we got, Tom? Who we got? What's the first
I'm going to
question
shoot
here?
off real quick. I'm going to shoot off real quick just to Stevie, real quick, just from me. Stevie, I know lots of bass players who also play keys. I just see it seems to be a thing where bass players also play keys, where they teach one or they play one. What came first?
The chicken or the egg?
Yeah, what did you start learning first, and where do you think that you started to bring the keys more into the Faim after playing bass in there for a bit?
Yeah, well, the keys most definitely came first. I actually didn't pick up bass until we started playing as Small Town Heroes. I've been playing piano since I was like 7, and like took classical lessons for forever. And yeah, so yeah, like keys is definitely my strongest suit. But however, I started playing bass in the band because we were pop punk, and keys didn't really have too much of a place in a pop punk band. And so I was like, well, bass is, and I dabbled at guitar, but like, oh gosh, my guitar playing was not something to be looked up to. And so I picked up the bass, and started very simple. I remember I couldn't even play with my fingers on bass when Saints of the Sinners was released. That was the first song that I used, because it's just all on the E string, well, D tuned to drop D, but it's just all like just doing well, slap to 12, doing well, no. It's just all on the one string. So that was a really easy one for me to start playing with my fingers, which was a huge challenge. And I remember playing it live for the first time using my fingers, and just butchered it. Lucky it's in drop D, so like you just got like D D A D.
Yeah.
So something was in the chord somewhere. So yeah. But yeah, I think, and the keys definitely started making more of an appearance in the music once we did that initial trip to LA, and we started branching out of pop punk music, and the songs became just like into different genres.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely came in more, and I'm extremely stoked that I can play it in the live set more. And like songs like State of Mind, which implement like both like it to like well in the to a degree where I can like really like rock out on bass, but still like get my sort of stamp of keys playing that like I do all the time. So it's a good combination of the two.
So it sounds like you kind of like learn bass for the purpose of the band, a bit like when I used to learn the ukulele purely so I could teach the ukulele. back in that ukulele boom of like 2015, you remember that? Like bands.
Did you teach ukulele?
I did. I made a killing from it, but I just stayed one step ahead of the student every time. But look, I'm going to throw the next question open to Mac. Some people might know Mac. He takes photos with the Faim on the road. Mac had a great question as well, so if he wants to jump in and ask that one, that'd be awesome.
Oh yeah, sorry, I've kind of forgotten it already.
No, that's okay. You had a great question for Rob about kind of valuable stats when it comes to working with a band.
I just need to find it in the chat, because I've got a note down here, but it's one sec. Oh yeah. So I think sort of like what was, kind of wanted to know what the most what you thought, Rob, were the most valuable steps a manager should take when they start working with a band, and yeah, like sort of what were your main thought processes to when you decided that's what you wanted to do?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a big decision, like finally deciding to manage a band, because it takes so much of your time up, and it's hard. Like having been through it myself as a musician, I know how hard it is, and it also takes time. Generally speaking, it takes time, and that's certainly been the case when we look at the Faim. You know, I started managing them, say, August 2016, and you know, we only released the album September 2019, so 3 years later. I think the thought process for me as a manager thinking about an act is, can I work with these people? Like do I love their music? Do I love the people? That's first. Do I love the people? Then do I love the music? And then I'll just mute you for a sec there, Matt. And then do I believe in them? Do I believe in their vision of what they can achieve? You know, and so, yeah, so much of the Faim was getting to that point. And then I think really sort of I don't know if this is what you're asking, Mac, but I think it is. You know, I think the most important quality a manager can have for a band is to be 100% honest. I think like radical honesty around everything you do with the band is just so important, because the manager is the one person that can tell the band as it is and what it is, whether that comes to feedback from the songs, feedback for the live show, people that might be acting up or not doing the right job. So a lot of, I think the single most important quality as a manager for anyone out there that could be looking to manage is honesty, and then trying to deliver it in a way that also doesn't crush spirits and dreams, but is delivered in a fair way. So I hope that helps, Mac. I hope that sort of answers it.
Yeah.
Awesome, buddy.
Awesome. Yeah, actually, can I just, there was like sort of like a second half to that question, which I did scribble down, but I didn't end up typing in. Sort of obviously sort of, I feel as though this has been sort of like, well, it's been such a long journey for you. Is there anything, would you say there was any bit of advice that someone gave you that turned out to be like overrated advice, or something that really didn't live up to sort of in your opinion, sort of, did you think that advice that you had been given was maybe sort of like misgiven or overrated or like not very beneficial?
Yeah. So when we were in LA on that first session working with John, I got introduced to Matt Emsel, who is 5 Seconds of Summer's manager. And Matt Emsel at the time had his own record label through Atlantic called 1825 Records that he was running with a friend of mine, Jadden Comerford, who owns Unified, UNFD. And they were both in LA, and I took a meeting with them and I said, you know, the Faim could actually be a great signing for 1825, because this is a developing label. You've got the back end of Atlantic, and, you know, you guys are both upcoming managers. Jadden manages Vance Joy. Obviously, Matt Emsel managed 5 Seconds of Summer. They also came down, watched the Faim play, showcased for them, took it all in, and then I went and met the guys a couple of days later. I was like, you know, what do you think? Do you think this could be a good signing for you guys? And I could also learn a lot from you, Jadden, and learn a lot from you, Matt. What do you think? And the advice they gave me was this: breaking a developing act is the hardest thing you'll pretty much have to do in the music industry. They had obviously both done it with Vance Joy and 5 Seconds of Summer. And this was March 2017. They said it's going to take you at least 3 years to get this off the ground. And at the time I thought, no way is this going to take 3 years. No way. I thought that advice that they were giving me, I was like, they're wrong. There's no way this is going to take 3 years. But I can tell you, if we fast forward to March 2020 now, from that 2017 meeting, we've just passed 3 years, and it's pretty much spot on advice. So it's more like the advice that I've typically received from people that I respect has generally been spot on. And it's something I'm always seeking, Mac, honestly. And, you know, you're a photographer. You have people you look up to in the photography world, tour photographers, videographers. I'm always trying to seek out managers. And whenever I can, whether it's like going to grab a couple of wines with Matt Ash, who manages Bring Me the Horizon, or Pat Magnarella, who does Rise Against, I'm always seeking out managers and asking for their advice and taking it on board, because I've found it very helpful. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thanks heaps for that,
Awesome,
Mac.
Thanks, Mac. That's great.
The next one I want to throw it out to is to Matt Kay. Matt plays in a great band down at the studios called Ashes of Autumn. Matt, if you want to jump in and ask a question, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Stevie and Rob, for your time as well. It's been awesome so far. Quick one, and you touched on it again, but when you're trying to build momentum with a band and you sort of throw out a song, you know, across the world, but you get that little bit of success in France or Germany, how do you balance that? Let's focus on that market where we've got, you know, getting some traction compared to let's continuing sowing the seed everywhere else, like balancing that, that scenario.
Well, definitely what we did is making the most of every single time that we're in like that country. So I remember like one example is we started to gain traction in France with Summer is a Curse. And so we were on the UK European festival tour and B Market tour in like across like August, I think August 2019. Yeah, it was August, September 2019. And so we played Lollapalooza Berlin, which was like a sick show. It was awesome. However, it was like a golden opportunity, but we weren't really going to Paris or France at all. But it was like at this pivotal point where Summer is a Curse was like, it was at that point where it's like, if we just did something, like we could sort of just like get it to that next like little spot. So what we did was we literally finished our set at Lollapalooza, and like, of course, like this is just like things that it's like sort of sacrifice you have to make, because like we've been waiting to see like Kings of Leon for like forever headlining like Lollapalooza Berlin, and we're like hours away from it. It's right there. It's right there.
Yeah.
However, first thing we do after our set, straight out, fly straight to Paris, because we had one day off between Lollapalooza Berlin and our next show in Bremen, Germany, which was 2 days later. We had one little day in between. So why not fly to another country and do a 10-hour day of radio promo? But because that's literally sort of trying to balance like the success or like what then was the sort of like the little glimmer of what could be a success of that song in that country. And so we flew to Paris, and we started at 9 a.m. in the morning with about like 10 interviews each in the foyer of the hotel. So we started there, and then went across to like 8 or so different radio stations and performed Summer is a Curse acoustically at those 8 stations, and then finished off with a few more interviews, which were sort of interviews at like bars, which was very nice. So they accommodated. They knew we'd probably be tired by then, so they let each person that interviewed us was like, "Would you like a drink?" And we're like, "Why not?" It's about that time. And that was a very long day. We finished at about 9:30, 10, and then we went out for dinner after that. So we got back at like 12, and we were just like, "Oh my gosh, this has been like a 15-hour day." And we are tomorrow morning getting up at like 5:30 a.m. to catch a flight to Bremen, and then drive to the venue, load in, sound check, next show. And so I think, to answer the question, it's sort of like if you're near somewhere where there's like a glimmer that it could gain traction there, you just got to make it work and put in the time for that area. And then I guess, but keep doing that every time we're in Paris, where every second of the day is trying to organize our time like, smart, so that we can get promo in between. Like we've got interviews like left, right, and center. It's like sound check here. Okay, I've got 10 minutes before I got to start setting up the merch. Interview, come in, we'll do that. Just here, left, right, center, trying to do everything we can to just give our songs like the best shot, the best shot of succeeding.
I think the way like I would take that back to like your situation, Matt, with the band is any little, like, and this is what we've done in the Faim every single step of the way, and we still do it, is the slightest crack in the door, the slightest glimmer of light that you just see shining through there. You don't even know if the door's open or not. You got to go in there and you got to freaking pry that door open. And that's what we've done every single step of the way. So like, that's a perfect example. The Faim had like this one day off. We were miles away from Paris. The only way they could get there is if they flew that night straight after their set. I then liaised with BMG France. There's an amazing guy there, Laurent, that works on the team. He was begging me for this. He's like, Rob, I know it's their day off. We want them to have a day off, but I can get them on like 4 of the 5 biggest French radio stations. They're considering playing it. This could be the moment. And then it's me as a manager going back to the boys and saying, look, fellas, it's a big opportunity. You can see what's happening in France. I think we got to do it. You guys are the ones that have to do it. So it's up to you. And you got to dig deep. And they did. They went and did it. And then what happened? Bang, high rotation on Virgin Radio. Bang, high rotation on NRG Radio. And this is it. So you will have everyone on this will have their examples. And it's not just for band. I mean, this is the story of life. Opportunities that come your way. It really depends how you react to those opportunities. You've got to like do everything you can. We did the exact same thing with Feldmann. These guys did the exact same thing when they met me. So it's just, that's the sort of the approach you need, Matt.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Really inspiring.
Good
Cheers.
stuff. Good stuff. Right. Tom.
Thanks, Matt. I'm going to throw one more out to Rosa. Rosa had a really good question for Stephen, plus Stephen and Rob as well. So, Rosa, if you want to unmute and jump in, that'd be awesome.
My question was, when you were just starting out, was it more important for you to kind of graft and get songs out and get your sound heard, or more to kind of keep people make connections? Like, which was more valuable?
Stevie?
I think a lot of them came hand in hand. Like, I think like what Rob said, the songs is what started everything. Like, it came down to the songs which Rob sent to like all the people that have now become like our team and everything like that. But then at the same time, like the songs made the connections to then going to see people. So they sort of like comes hand in hand. So it's like when we're on tour, like we played the songs, people hear the songs, but then, you know, like when we're out there, like meeting people and like on the first Lord of Atlantis tours, or the Lord of Atlantis tour, Sleeping with Sirens tour, Against the Current tour, like all of that time, it was like we have to no one here knows who we are. Like they've heard the songs. Let's follow it up now, and let's go meet the people and like make those connections. And it's not just making connections with, you know, people that we could potentially like work with or associate with, is making connections with the fans and the people that are there listening to our music, because that's what it's about at the end of the day. And like, if you can make that connection with the people, then like that just makes the overall experience just that much better. So yeah, I think they definitely come hand in hand, where we sort of try to make the effort to, you know, have the songs and give those a big push by playing the tours. But when you're on tour, like going that step further and going out of your way to make the connections with people to, you know, not only give like the songs the best chance, but to like let the songs like reach the potential that they can reach. Like let them like reach the people. Like let's go out, let's find, like let's just meet the people. Let's see, like if someone connects with the song, like they can come up and they can tell us and, you know, share like their memories with that. And it sort of adds to the overall experience. Instead of just having a song, it makes it like something that's more tangible.
That's very good. That's very good, Steve. Good answer. Thanks for that question, Rosa. That was great, mate. Thank you. Tombo?
Awesome. I'd like to throw the next one out to Janny, who's sent a question in. So if you'd like to unmute your mic and jump in, that'd be awesome.
Sure. So obviously you guys have been touring so much, playing so many shows and festivals and everything. Like you said, Summer's a Curse is really kicking it off. You work with big artists. Is it ever hard for you to stay grounded? And like, how do you do it? Because you seem so down to earth, all of you.
You know, we give it a whirl, but I think it's just like, I think you always know. Well, remembering that we're extremely fortunate to be doing this like all the time, and I think staying grounded is like such a like a big term, because I hope we never leave the ground to like one extent. But yeah, like we do so much, and I think you just always got to be grateful for what you're doing first off, because as soon as you start taking that for granted, like that's when you know that like there's something like wrong ticking, because like every show, every festival is like, it's just golden opportunity. Like you don't know when the next time you're not going to be playing a festival could be. Like take this whole COVID-19 thing, like shit. like, let's play a show already. Like, who knows? Like we had like 2 months worth of touring, and now, you know, we're back here. And it's just gone. Just like this.
So sad. All those festivals in France. Oh.
Some guy ate a bat, and now it's just all out the window. So it's just things like that where you just got to like take everything with a grain of salt and just know that, yeah, we're lucky to be doing what we're doing, and keep, you know, not taking yourself too seriously. And at the end of the day, like there's so many like bands out there that are doing like, well, there's on both sides. There's bands out there that, you know, that are trying to get to where we are, but there's also bands out there that that we're looking at like, how the hell do they get there? How do they do that? And so it's being like, you know, being like, just acknowledging that, man, like we've got it pretty good, but also acknowledging that like we've got a long way to go, and to know that we've got to keep working, you know, to get to ultimately like, just like we're the best place that we can be.
That's awesome. Great question, Johnny. Yeah. And look, I'll just chime in quickly here. The boys are all bloody lovely, and it's never hard for anyone to keep grounded because they all come from great families. They're all good people, and they're all buddies. So everyone keeps each other honest, and they're a great bunch of lads to manage. So I'm lucky in that respect as well. But great question, Jenny. Thanks. Tom, did you have another one?
Yeah, there's one more. One more I'd like to throw out to Lucy. Had a great question for Stephen before. So Lucy, if you'd like to unmute and jump in.
Come on, Lucy.
Hi.
Hi, Lucy. How are you?
Thanks.
Great.
I wanted to ask what they create first, if they create the lyrics or the melody when it comes to a song.
Yes. No, thanks, Lucy. That's a great question. The creative process, Steve, and what comes first, the music or the lyrics?
Absolutely. It definitely ebbs and flows depending on, just literally like depending on the day. Like it can start with like a melody, could start with a guitar riff, but like, you know, something like that we learned and we keep trying to like apply is, you know, keep trying to give like the melody that voice, and to try and like create the vibe of a song. And I think definitely creating a vibe is something that we always try and do, to try and create something that, well, one, isn't the same as something that we've done a lot, but two, to try and like create like just something that makes you feel something, to pardon the pun with the make-believe lyric there. But yeah, I think we're definitely trying to focus on the melody is such a big thing, as that's like that is like what really makes the song. But definitely like something that we're trying to do is like, how can we elevate that with the music and the production, and like, you know, us as musicians, like how can we really like give the melody and the lyrics like that push, the elevation that we can do to make the song, you know, as good as we can.
Awesome. That's great, Stevie. Thank you, Lucy. Thanks for the question. And well answered, Steve-o. Steve and Tom, thank you for those questions. We could come back to any more questions, but I'm going to jump back in to 2019 quickly here. And so, Steve, you know, after sort of a tough second tour in 2018, we come ahead into 2019. I guess some of our thinking around this point in time was to just see, like we basically toured for all of 2018, was like, okay, what's the approach as far as can we headline? So we booked a headline Australia tour, we booked a headline European tour. I think it was roughly 32 dates across, I don't know, 5 or 6 weeks. How was it going from supporting bands to finally headlining your own tours? How did you find that whole process, Steve-o?
That was really cool. We finally, got the opportunity to play our own shows, and gosh, that was a big tour. There was like was it 4 weeks all up?
Yeah. I think it was like, you know, Australia was 2, then Europe was 4.
Yeah, that was a big one. Also definitely an eye opener, as we never done a headline tour before. So the drives were gnarly on that first tour. That was crazy. We didn't see that coming, as the drives were. I think it was a lot to do with it being able to get to the venue later on support tours as well. So having more responsibility as the headline band was something that we definitely had to pick up on very quick. And the longer sets was definitely a big jump as well, from playing 30-minute shows to playing hour-long shows, and coming up with enough songs to be able to play a headline show as well. Playing all the unreleased songs that I'm sure a lot of people that are on here know that we were sort of like scraping. I'm like, oh gosh, what song do we play live now that we haven't released, to sort of try and keep hype for the album, but also give the people that have seen us play like 6-7 times to that point, give them something new, so that like this can really be like a headline show.
Did you feel a lot more pressure, Steve? Did you feel a lot more pressure as far as like, you know, being a headliner now?
I think so. I think there's definitely like a sense of pressure, and especially like on secondary headline tours, like the second and third headline tours that we did. There's more pressure to like back up the last one and to like really show like a step up, because you know people, and especially in the fact that the like the repertoire of songs hadn't changed much in between those tours. As we were touring, like, well, when we started touring, we had one song released, and so a lot of it was sort of doing everything backwards. Instead of like releasing an album and like touring off that, it's like, okay, we're releasing one song and we're going to tour for like 28 weeks in that 1 year off the back of, well, what was initially a single or two and then an EP. And that was a whole year of touring, and then extending that to an album. So the repertoire didn't really change too much in that time, which was definitely a daunting thing which made us have to think of like other ways to sort of elevate the set, which had a lot to do with performance, like just to do with really like anything that we could do to give like everyone that was watching, and like a lot of people here that came to those shows, to try and give them something extra every time. And and a lot of that came like on the last tour, we thought of like more instrumental sections like in between songs, and well, which was great. We had a few more songs to play, like on the State of Mind tour. We had like State of Mind, Tongue Tied, and Words Apart, and all those ones, which were really awesome to add to the set. Which and Buying Time, of course, which made like an elevation again. But yeah, headlining is definitely extremely different story to a support tour.
Yeah, it is. But you guys did a great job of it. I mean, I was, you know, when we decided to do the headlining tour, it was a bit nerve-wracking because we didn't know how it would go. But, you know, you sold out the Garage in London, you sold out Southampton, Birmingham, Melkweg in Amsterdam, and a bunch of other shows on that tour. I think we ended up selling over 5,000 tickets in Europe, sold a couple thousand tickets in Australia. And for me, like as your manager, you know, and you guys always call me the band dad, it feels like that. It's like you're watching, you're like, kids grow up and they're succeeding at life. You're like, way to go, lads. And it was cool. I came over for that London show, the Amsterdam show, and a couple of the German shows, and it was incredible. You guys absolutely nailed it. And it was sort of like, so, and this is the best part of being a manager, is when, you know, you can actually start to see the act influencing people, and so much love for the band, and seeing how hard you guys worked only made me want to work harder. And, you know, we kept dropping singles throughout the year, Armily and Fire. You did that, you know, Andy Black tour across the US. We then had had to finish the bloody album. So at the end of the Andy Black tour, you know, you guys stayed in the US for a couple more weeks. I think you guys stayed in New York for an extra week, 10 days, something like that. My wife and I were out of our apartment in New York. You guys stayed here and wrote, I think you wrote Buying Time. You wrote a few other songs that ended up being on State of Mind. Like, I guess this is like the nice thing of being in a band, Steve. Like, you know, you get to now spend a week in New York City experiencing it. Did it feed into your creative process at all? How was all of that?
Well, yeah, I think, well, your house definitely fed to the creative process of Buying Time, as Sam was just there like chilling, just like chilling on the bed, and then just like strumming the chords, which became, and then the melody for the Buying Time chorus, which is where that one came out. But that's, definitely like a really cool experience. The gosh, the trek to the rehearsal studio, and the rehearsal studio itself was very interesting.
Yes, the sweatshop. What a dump.
Yeah, and lugging all the instruments and everything on the underground was a lot of fun. But yeah, all of that, just sort of like experiencing all the like, I think we must have been through like every single different writing experience like to this on this earth, like whether it's in like with co-writers just by ourselves or the producer in New York with nothing but a couple of acoustic guitars and a wash down studio, like a lot of different like hurdles to tackle and different time frames in doing so, which was definitely a big thing there.
Well, one of those hurdles that I think that you guys have faced is trying to fit in time to write and record with all of the touring, because we've toured so heavily. And part of the reason we've toured so heavily is, again, it's like an opportunity comes our way and it's like, well, do we really want to say no to a 28-day US tour with Andy Black, even though we do need more songs? So it's been sort of finding that time. It's a bit of a balancing act, I think, with a band at this level of trying to just pack it all in.
Yeah, absolutely. That's basically like 2019 in a nutshell. There is writing and touring, touring and writing. Like,
yes, doing it all at the same time. You know, you guys went back to LA. You finished Humans. We wrapped up State of Mind, Buying Time, Words Apart, and basically we're able to finish the album so that we could lock in a date for September to release the thing, back for European summer festivals, Reading and Leeds once again, 2 years in a row for that, which was great fun. You know, Steve, when I look at this whole process, you know, like you've got to work with so many different songwriters. Do you think like working with the likes of, you know, Zach Safini, Matt Pauling, John Feldmann, John London, how would you say it's influenced the creative process for you?
I think, yeah, it definitely, you just learn something with every session. Like everyone brings something different to each session, whether if it's the producer or a co-writer, or like even us when we come into the studio with an idea, like how we're feeling in that day it would just completely like spark something. And whether like, you know, like even last Wednesday, we wrote a new tune, something really wasn't clicking, and then we came up with something at nighttime, and then we started working on that. It's like however you're feeling is and has such a huge effect on everything. And yeah, writing with so many different people like opens up so many different doors that you wouldn't have thought of doing before. And I think that's the best thing. Like, there's the best thing about collaboration in general, and like especially like with the guys, and you know, writing with like Sam and Lindo and spending more time doing that, and whoever it's with, like when someone comes up with something that you'd never have thought of yourself, is just the sick. That's like, yep, sick, love that, because then like you can add that to your own arsenal. It's like, well, that's something I would never have done, but now I can remember that and copy it for myself. But like, yeah, it's just really cool, because that's, you know, that's what music's about at the end of the day. Is it's all collaboration. And you know, you can only do so much before, you know, without taking on something like learning from someone else. And with every new song that we write, with everyone that we write with, it's always a learning experience, and you can learn something every day. Every day, like something new will come in, and like that's cool. And then it's something new to add to your repertoire. And even just listening to music, like in between writing sessions, and like just active listening, being like, oh, what does Kevin Parker do here? Like, why is Lost in Yesterday just the best song ever?
God, that is the best song ever.
It just is. It's song, just man. So sick.
God, Tame Impala, Lost in Yesterday. Do yourself a favor. Go have a listen. It's freaking brilliant. Hey, shit. That is such a good song. Steve, what do you think you've learned about yourself in this last few years? You know, you're a young man growing up, going through all this. What have you learned about yourself?
Ooh, that's a big question.
He's not afraid to go there.
I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to answer the big questions. I think being able to communicate is definitely a big thing. And not just, I think being able to receive communication and give communication is something that has been more and more relevant and important in like what, you know, in my life in the last like 4 years. And being I'd say like weighing up what's important is also like such a big thing. So like, you know, like when you're on tour, like the things that are important can change like every day. And being more aware of everything.
Can you give us an example, Steve?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of some as I go. Like, for example, like when you're away on tour, like being able to stay in contact with like loved ones and everything is like extremely like important and can change the way being away definitely changes like your values. And so like on a day off, like there's just like nothing I love more than just getting a good phone call in. Like a phone call I never would have thought would be so powerful before that. And I think in like examples of like communication and everything like that, whether it's when you're on tour communicating with those back home, but between each other, like when your whole life is spent with like 4 guys, and it's a necessity. It's a necessity to be able to communicate like fluidly with everything, like not just anything, but everything. Because it's, you know, a table can't stand without 4 legs unless it's a specific kind of camping table. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it gotta be. There's a couple of camping tables out there that can do it.
3 leg. Yeah. No, I've seen
Take a trip to BCF. You know, you're sorted.
Yes.
But without a BCF, you need all 4 legs of that table. And like in whatever it is, when you're traveling and like someone's like not having the greatest day, being like aware, and like sometimes communication can come in a way which isn't even verbal. It's being like aware of not just yourself, being aware of others. And that becomes even more so like critical. Like the more like experiences I've had in this band is like awareness and communication really does like stand out, and going that little extra mile for things and for people like just makes such a huge difference. Like whether it's, you know, like whether it's with us in the band, for your crew, like going the extra mile for your crew, when the crew go the extra mile for you, and the difference that makes you feel is incredible. And it makes you want to do that for other people, going the extra mile for the fans and the people that are waiting in line at the shows, trying to do whatever you can, even though like on some days when you're on the road and you're tired and it's cold and it's like, you know, you can't really remember the last time you got more than 5 hours sleep, aka the first US tour. There was like a week in there where it was like 4 hours max.
Yeah.
But still in the back of your mind, being aware of the little things that can really make someone's day just like that little bit better. I think that's definitely something that you pick up and really try and maintain throughout the whole process, because it really is one long process, and it's those little things that make you miss being on the road. Like I remember getting back in when we played in France earlier this year.
Yep.
Like a lot of mixed feeling, like quite daunted, like to get back, like to be back. We just had like an amazing break. I got to spend 6 weeks with my girlfriend, which I hadn't got to do. That was the most time ever. But as soon as we got there and got like back together again, it was like, this is so sick. Like being with Mitch and Joe and the boys and everything, and all those little things that everyone's done to that point in time, just like come like flooding back. And it's like, that's why we're in this.
Yeah. So what Steve's referring to there is we got invited to play on Tara Tata, which is a big French TV show that's been going since the 90s. Everyone from Red Hot Chili Peppers to My Chemical Romance has played it. And it's an Ed Sheeran, Elton John, gosh, just literally everyone. And the guys were invited, so they flew from Perth to Paris for a couple of days to play on Tara Tata. And you did a cover and you did Summer is a Curse, and it's all live studio audience, and it was brilliant. You guys absolutely smashed it and did such a great job. And the reason we were able to get invited to something like that was because of the success that you ended up having with Summer is a Curse and doing all those promo trips to radio. So I love seeing you guys succeed, because I know how hard you work, and that's a wonderful thing. Steve, tell me if there's, there's going to be a bunch of bands that end up watching this, that jam at the Hen House, that are youngsters, just like you were back in 2015. What's your advice to a young band that's coming up when there's that balance of trying to do social media, become a better songwriter, become a better musician, playing their instrument, playing live shows? What's the balance? Where should they be focusing their time? What's your opinion on a young band coming through in 2020?
I think the thing is working as a team so that you can focus your time on as many things as possible. Especially when I'm thinking back, it was in every spare minute that we had, someone was on social media doing something, commenting, messaging, replying, something. And then whilst the others were writing or doing something, it was a big multitasking thing, sort of like the studio at John's. And I think a team effort across the board is the biggest thing. And not being working at these things as a team, not being afraid to take risks and be unique. I think really trying to make yourself stand out in whatever way possible. Like us trying to stand out was doing the covers and reaching out. That was just one way. There's unlimited ways out there that are just waiting to be taken hold of. And I think just doing it is the biggest thing. Nothing will come without, nothing will come without just getting in there and giving it a crack. And it takes a lot of time, a lot of time.
Yeah.
Which, like I said, is you sort of just got to go little step by little step. And if you can get to a place where you can look back and be like, how the hell did that happen? It's because you've done it little bit by little bit and keep on looking for that next slight increase. What can we do to better what we just did that little bit more? And what is that? And actually acting upon that.
Yes.
I think is definitely the biggest thing. Focusing, on songwriting, on socials, being noticed, getting your name out there, live show, all of it is just such a big factor in everything. And that sort of, in essence is what leads back to the time that it takes to get all these things in place.
Yeah, it is hard. It's just hard. And again, I guess this sort of comes back to finding a band, if you are a band that has, 3 or 4, however many members are in the band, 5 dedicated members, because it allows you to delegate a little bit. So it's not one person doing it all. Because I think the reality is if, becoming a full-time musician is the dream and you want to tour the world and you want to do what you've just done over the last few years, there's just no getting around the fact that it's just a huge amount of work. And if you want to manage a band in this situation, it's just a huge amount of work. There's sort of no getting around it. It's a massive challenge and you really need everyone pulling in the same direction. So I think that's great advice, Stevie. Tom, I just know there's maybe 1 or 2 more questions and then we'll look to wrap this up.
No worries, man. Look, well, I'll throw the next one out to Pauline. Pauline had a couple of great questions. So I'll throw it straight up and Pauline.
Hi, Pauline.
Jump in.
Hi. I've got a few questions.
Go for
one
it.
of them is, what made you change state of mind from 6 minutes to a shorter version? And are there other songs that were longer before, but you had shortened them?
That's a great question.
Yeah, good question. So basically the sections in State of Mind that we had didn't really flow together that great. So we had the demo, which was I say demo, voice recording of us in the Hen House. Do it like when we wrote it. And there was this section which was gosh, what was it? It was the vocals were sort of hitting one note, a shake it, da da batty, and the got it, something like that with some rhythm. And we would have hits, so pow. It's da 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 got it, da 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 back in it, got it.
It's like a seal. You're like a seal. This is entertaining. Keep going.
Giving the people the content they want. But that was basically an extra section that we had in it. And I think I think the chorus was a little longer than we had it before. It was just I think when we went into the studio and I think this comes back to always being self-critical with the writing and being okay, this is what it was at the start, but every time you go record something, the next step is always to try and improve it. And sometimes that means taking stuff away. And so like, okay, this section doesn't really flow. What if we took that out? And actually thinking back, there's a lot of rearranging in that song. The verses and choruses and pre-choruses and whatever were actually like all over the place in the voice memo. And we're actually there, it was like quite late at night. It was like almost like midnight. And we were crafting together with good old Pro Tools. Thank God for Pro Tools. We literally grabbed like the sections, chopped and changed them together. And we're like, oh, this is the arrangement. Like this works. And then we re-record to suit that arrangement. So yeah, I think it's like that was shortened from the voice memo phase to the recording phase because it's sort of what worked with the new melodic structure and lyrics and everything to make the arrangement the best possible arrangement that we could, which involved taking some stuff out. And to answer the question, have we done that with any others? I think that was the main one where it's been longer. Humans was actually reworked like a lot of times. That was like it took like 3 sessions of reworking. We did one session, which was like a day. Oh, actually, we got sent an initial like memo, which had which had the in it, and then it was just a chord progression. And then
this is good quality. This is good stuff. I like it when you do song reenactments. Oh yes, that part. I know what he did.
Yeah, that part. They know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
It was the pre-chorus / intro. Then we went and recorded it, and in that recording session we had what became the verse, and we had a completely different chorus. The only part of the chorus was actually the human. That was the only part of the chorus that we had. And like, that was the chorus, which was now like the post-chorus. And so then we all dispersed. We all went back to wherever we came from. I stayed in LA. Lindo and Josh went back to Perth. Sam went to Melbourne. And then we're like, we think we need to rework this. And we're all in like different places. So then I go back into the studio in LA, and Josh is sending like voice memos from in the car in Perth, and we're sort of like piecing these voice memos back together. And then we came up with something. We're like, this is sick. Send it in to Sam and Rob and Linda, and they're like, this is shit.
Yes. That's right.
It's like, it can be improved. So then I flew back to Perth like a week later, and then I remember we went back into the Hen House, and we then wrote, which was then the chorus, and then recorded that at Underground Studios in Perth.
Yep. Good, Stevie. Good, Pauline. I hope that answered your questions.
Yep. Thanks.
Good, great. Hey, we've got a special guest that's just joined us here that I just want to pull in because I saw his name pop up. It's Mitch Beauperson. Our unbelievable tech for the Faim since day one. Mitch, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, Rob. Thank you. How are you?
Yes, very good, mate. It's nice to bring you into this, Mitch. I mean, give us your perspective. I mean, you're like, you literally worked for free on the first 11-week tour. You were doing the Faim shows even before the touring when there was Small Town Heroes still. How's this whole like process been for you the last few years?
It's been a dream actually, because it's been what I wanted to do since I really started getting into this field, touring full time, doing what I love. And so it was a bit daunting kind of going in head first, especially taking on new roles and new responsibilities. But the best part about it was I learned so much. Learning a lot of my skill set. There's no real training for it apart from just doing it.
That's so true.
Apart from that, it's been great to do it with my best friends, really. I couldn't have asked for anything else. It's just been so much fun doing what I love with the people that I love as well. So it's been amazing.
It's cool, Mitch. Like, from day one, I think you still had your, when I first met you down at the studio with the boys, and, you were basically working for free, really for the first couple of years working with the guys. But what I loved about, you, Mitch, is you really wanted to be a tech that toured the world, which is great, because a lot of the time you come across techs that do it because, you know, their band didn't really work out or there's no other options. I mean, you had a solid job that was paying you good money, but you still wanted to pursue your passion. And, you know, you're always wearing the Road Sick merch apparel, which is merch for touring people. And what's been cool, Mitch, is I've seen you grow into this role, and not just as a tech. You've tour managed the Faim on a number of tours, and then through that you now get hit up by other bands to go tour around the world. So it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's I guess as well, like starting out as a tech, I worked for a lot of small bands within Australia, within Perth as well, and the hardest thing to get work like that is you can't just go to someone and say, hey, this is what I want to do, hire me. You know, the best way you can really get the job is just by networking, meeting people, and becoming someone who the band or their artist want to be around. I think the main part about being a crew member is being someone who you want to hang out with, and then the job comes second to it. Because when you think about it, you spend most of your time off stage as a friend basis rather than someone who is a team member or part of your workplace.
Yeah.
So having someone who is, I guess, your friend, can also help you out on stage is what is mostly important to bands. So the hardest thing for me especially from being in Perth, was trying to find bands who I wanted to work with, but also try and make that connection to, you know, just be friends. And I think doing starting out with the Faim, meeting people along the way, networking and becoming friends with these people is what really helped me get a lot more work from it.
Yeah, it's great, Mitch. You've been a real superstar, worked incredibly hard for the band. And it's exciting for me to see you go on this journey and then to succeed and do all of that. Like, I get the same kick when I see you getting these other jobs as I do when the Faim gets on a festival. So it's really cool. Mitch, there's like so much that's happened. Give us a quick low light in the last 2 years and a quick highlight in the last 2 years.
Low light. The low light is exhaustion and not really having any time to well, for me anyway, because not having time to take care of myself or attend to things at home, rather than because I've always just been so focused on what I'm doing and what's ahead of me, rather than looking back at home and, you know, with friends and family and things like that. So taking care of myself and my friends and family has been a low for me. Highlight is obviously being able to see the world and have friends all around the world as well. You know, I think I'm can almost say that anywhere I go, there's going to be someone who I can catch up with at a show and hang out with them for a drink and, you know, just kind of see them.
Yes.
So yeah, that's probably a highlight for me. Just being able to make friends around the world and travel, see places that I probably would never have seen before.
That's so cool, Mitch. Yeah, it's a real, it's really lucky what we get to do and the places we've been. And actually, I'll just throw this question here quickly. It's from Remy Anderson. I wanted her to ask it, but she can't speak very good English. Steve, I'll throw this to Steve and Mitch, but the question is, how does it feel to have been to so many countries? Have you ever thought you'd be in such distant places from your home? And the example is like Poland, which is what I'm guessing Remy is from. Steve, do you want to tackle that first, then to you, Mitch?
Yeah, like I think I can say for me and Mitch, where we wouldn't have really have imagined that we'd end up in Poland when Mitch saw us play for the first time down at the Rosemount, and I was playing a guitar on the State Champs cover that we were doing. I think, yeah, when we first met that night, I think there was no way in hell that we would have thought that we would end up playing in Poland or anywhere like around to that extent. And it's once again, I keep going back to this, that it gets the vision of that seems like it's come out of nowhere, but it's like you start to once with those little steps, it sort of becomes more and more realistic until you're there, and then you're like, how the hell did this happen? And I think that's definitely a thing where looking back, it was like it was like, I remember when we got an offer, which didn't end up happening, but to go play in like the Kimberley, because my uncle's cousin or something was doing like organizing an event up there. And even that, like that in itself was like, it's outside of Perth. That's crazy. So like, that's just like the extent to which when we were starting out, that how insane that could be. So yeah, very definitely an unexpected experience to myself 4 years ago.
Yeah, totally. How about you, Mitch? Did you ever think about this idea of, touring the world and ending up in Poland?
No, never at all would I ever think I would be in Poland. I have a photo I took of the band probably about 2 years ago. I think it was the very first show in Perth as the Faim, and it's a group photo of the whole band and myself. We had a lighting guy and a bunch of friends, and I captioned it to myself like, be interesting to see where this to look back on this photo now to see where we would be in the world. And that's exactly what's happened. Like I have a flag that I had all my friends in the last tour in America sign, and Josh said to me on that note, on that flag, saying, we're a long way from HQ. It's been such an incredible journey. So I think never would I thought I would be anywhere outside Australia, let alone the US or Poland, or even anywhere in Germany, France, those kinds of places. I didn't really even think that I would be able to go there. I just thought maybe being a tech from Perth, I would never leave Australia. I was just content with doing laps around Australia with different artists. But yeah, definitely a bit of a bonus to me.
Yeah, totally. I'll give you my perspective on this quickly because it's a little different because I'm older than both of you and sort of got to experience quite a bit with Gyroscope. For me, when I took, managing the Faim on, the vision in my head, just as a manager was, and what appealed to me was that, the Faim was always going to have to take a very different path to Gyroscope because it was never really on the table for Triple J airplay. So if Triple J is not the focus, it makes Australia a hard market to crack. So I always did really envision this idea that, that you guys would be hopefully touring, UK, Europe and the US, and have always sort of made that like a little bit of my guiding star with everything we've done really, because there's no point signing an Australian deal if it looks like you're going to be doing most of your touring in the US and the UK, Europe. So much of the focus was never, initially it was looking at Australian labels, but then it was very much going, okay, if we want to tour the world, we should be signed to a label out of the US. So let's go for that. So I think like whatever your goals are as a musician or as a tech or as a sound guy or as a photographer, you should be thinking about what's the ultimate goal, because whatever your ultimate goal is, that is what's going to guide you through the process. So yeah, I still pinch myself when I get to call you guys up and say, hey, great news. We're going to Spain. We're going to Poland. You got your first show in Mexico City coming up. I still get a real kick out of that. So it's really cool. Mitch, thanks for joining us here, buddy. I just spotted you there. I've been trying to get Joe Simpson to join, but I can't, he's doesn't have a camera, but he says hello. So it's all good. But look, Stevie, I just think maybe what I'd like to do here is probably wrap this up. We've been going for 2.5 hours. And,
smash it.
Yeah, mate. Like if we were going to look back on this video that I'm going to upload to YouTube in 3 years' time, where do you hope that the Faim goes next? Like where, like 2020, 2021, 2022, what's the next round of goals? You've accomplished so much already. What's next?
I think the goal is to keep pushing ourselves and to keep releasing music that we're proud of and that we really feel is a step up, and to be able to continue to tour and basically keep on doing what we're doing now, but to keep trying to do it those couple of steps up. We want to be able to do some like bigger tours and reach different audiences, but however still grow with the audiences that we have now. I think like everything, like the growth of everything is always like insane, and I'm sure the challenges that we'll face in the future are certainly gonna present themselves just as they have had as of ever. But I hope that future us can continue to meet every challenge that we face head on, and just, you know, give the best out of ourselves that we've done so far, and like continue to do that moving forward. Yeah, well, you should be super proud of everything you've achieved, Steve. I have thoroughly enjoyed working with you every single step of the way. I am so proud of everything, you know, we've achieved as a team, as a manager, as a band, the ups, the downs. We've got to see the world together. We've managed to go for nice long jogs, runs all over the world. And I just hope we can keep doing that and keep continuing to do it. And more than anything, mate, I think, you know, your attitude towards life is so inspiring to me. And I think that's why, you know, I just love hanging out with you, because you've got such a positive outlook. You've got such an incredible work ethic. And yeah, mate, just I am so honored to manage you and call you my buddy. Yeah, same to yourself, Rob. Same to yourself. It's not a tour without a run with Rob. Totally. Well, look, thanks everyone so much for joining. I really appreciate it. I hope we didn't waffle on too long there, but even if we did, I'm sure there'll be lots of like takeaways. What I like to do at this point is I want to get like a thumbs up from everyone. Get into the camera, give me a thumbs up, give me a smile, and I'm going to do a little screenshot so I can share it. Thumbs up. Great. That's awesome. Well, thanks again, everyone. Really appreciate it. And yeah, I'll upload this to YouTube and you can check it all out, share it with anyone. And yeah, really appreciate everyone taking the time. It's been fun. Stevie B, what a pleasure. Mate, always. All right. Thanks, gang. Great chatting. Mitch as well. See you guys. Take care. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you. See you later.
See you, buddy. Bye. See you, everyone.